113-104. The Toronto Raptors have gone streaking. The Toronto Raptors have won 4 straight. This is an unforeseen, unbelievable turn of events for a team that had a lot of times struggled defensively, offensively. They did not shoot well tonight, but the defense has become the calling card of the Toronto Raptors. And that's crazy to say because the defense was, sorry about that, being a little bit blurry there. The defense has been a problem all year. And tonight, I think you saw so many defensive possessions where the Raptors had multiple efforts. I thought they did a fantastic job on Zion Williamson, even though he shot very efficiently and got 31 points. I think a lot of, the fouling was an issue tonight for the Raptors. The third quarter was a very, very major issue for the Raptors, in which the Raptors got outscored 35-18. But overall, bend but don't break. You end up going into halftime with a 16-point lead. You get outscored by 17 in the third quarter. So you go into the fourth quarter with a real gut check. Are you going to fold, or are you going to get back to what got you there? And the Toronto Raptors, for their part, came out in the fourth quarter and they punched first. So I think that this was a fantastic game, huge game from Jakob, really good game from Chris Boucher, big time game from Bruce Brown off the bench. Pretty complete game for Scottie, even though he shot very poorly. And, you could say a lot about his offensive process in this game. I think overall the defense was incredible for Scottie, and I think he contributed everywhere on the court, from getting on the glass to making some very good reads. Another solid game from Orlando Robinson. Orlando was, a good find for the Raptors, man. He started for the Heat a bunch of games last year, and I just seem to really love some of the passes he's making, some of his defensive effort. I think that they have just found, to borrow a term here, I'm just going to lift this. They found a groove. They found momentum. They have found an identity. And frankly, they found a star, because right prior to the game, we got news. A couple things we got news of. Number one, big congrats to Scottie Barnes being named the NBA Player of the Week for the Eastern Conference alongside Jaren Jackson Jr. on the Western side. That's crazy. That's what happens when you win. You get a lot of credit for things, right? And Scottie, for his part, has earned it. The analytics would tell you that he has been one of the 3 to 5 best defenders over the last couple of weeks in the NBA. I think, we talk a lot about, how do you get that super max? How do you get into that conversation? Well, one way would be to win Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, go out there and go win DPOY. Last year when I talked to his trainer, Brian Macon, the one thing we talked about where, we talked, okay, yeah, he could win MVP. Yeah, it could be all-timer, but winning DPOY is going to be really hard in the league with guys like Wemby and Chet. It's harder for Wings to win DPOY, but his impact has been DPOY adjacent, or at least first team all defense adjacent. There are things that he's doing on the back line of the defense, communicating, transition, shutting down. There was a couple of plays where, under most circumstances, that's 100% Zion dunk, but against Scottie, it's just not, right? So Jamal Shead, really some very good moments off the bench. Let's take a look at what happened in this game, and we'll take a look at the film session. Film session is going to be really interesting today. Salute. How are you guys doing? How are you feeling about the tank being off the table temporarily? We'll see what happens, with the trade deadline, which is coming up in 10 days. We are 10 days away from the trade deadline. We got Chicago next. Chicago, by the way, the team that you have to catch, just beat Denver. So they're not going to make it easy on you. And maybe this affects the Raptors calculus just a little bit, because I don't think Chicago walked into tonight with people thinking they were going to beat Denver, but they just beat them by 8, and they were down pretty much the entire way through. And then they just came back, and in the beginning of the fourth quarter, just busted that game open. So, Brooklyn loses, you win. Brooklyn is going to pass you tonight. So it's like you're going one way, Chicago's going one way, Philly's going one way. And it's like, it's very interesting for the Raptors front office. How are they going to do the calculus on this? Are they going to be able to sell themselves on the idea of a late push? Or are they going to say, you know what? No, I think we're playing too well right now. This team deserves, an opportunity to finish what they started. We're not going to trade Bruce Brown. We're not going to trade Kelly Olynyk. We're actually going to add some reinforcements here by using our mid-level. And I don't know. I mean, it's worth noting there was a glaring couple of omissions in the starting lineup. Oh, sorry, not in the starting lineup. In the lineup tonight, we did not see Jonathan Mobo. We did not see Jamison Battle, and we did not see Jacoby Walter tonight. And I thought that was interesting because, again, like, we do care about the development of these young players, and we'll talk about developing while not playing, etc., and why I think that it's very important that we not panic about young players not playing for the Raptors. But I do. That's funny. Tony is saying trade them all and still keep winning. Damn it. Okay, well, I mean, we're just getting more confused by the day, aren't we? All right, let's take a look at what happened here. So, in terms of the box score, I mean, really abysmal shooting night from Scottie. Took a lot of early threes, 1 for 7. The broadcast was not happy about it, right? In a game where you lose by not, well, you win by 9. Oops, Freudian slip there for the tankathon in me. You win by 9. Scottie was -3. He was the only starter that was negative. And I don't think you should look too much into that. But also, I think that's a credit to how well the bench unit played, specifically with RJ Barrett, Bruce Brown, guys like that, right? It's also worth noting the Raptors were without Kelly Olynyk tonight, but they did get Ochai Agbaji back. He did not play a lot, but he was pretty, invisible in his game. Like, honestly, if you told me Ochai did not play tonight, I would believe you, but I saw him on the court. But it wasn't that typical impact. He didn't take a single three, but he was just there. And I think they'll just ramp him up slowly. But, when you get Kelly back, when you get, Emmanuel quickly back, it becomes hard to imagine that a single rookie will play at all, because obviously Davion has played well enough to warrant, backup point guard minutes. He was plus 18 tonight. I think he had some very good moments defensively. So it's like you're gonna ice Jamal, you're gonna ice all your rookies as you make a push for the play-in. It's like, is it worth it? I think these are all questions the Raptors have to consider. So let's just try to focus on this game. Grady had a couple of impressive moments. He tried to draw a charge on Zion Williamson. It was called a block, but I really love the effort. It's kind of like, with RJ Barrett the other day, who tried to draw a charge. I just appreciate players putting themselves on the line. If your foot's on the line, I'm going to trust that you're going to watch the film and you're going to learn from that. But the effort and the grit to do that is important, right? Again, Scottie contributing in all facets, right? 21 points, 3 steals, 1 block. I feel like he had 2 blocks, but they took 1 away from him. But all right, 1 block, 3 steals, 8 assists, 11 rebounds. Just kind of giving you that total stat stuffing thing. I thought his shot diet was very difficult apart from the threes. The Pelicans played a lot of zone, which sort of forced Scottie into some dare shots from 3. Personally, I'm perfectly fine with him taking 6, 7 threes. I know some people would disagree with that. He's going to hit them at some point. He needs to take these shots. And for him to become a great player, he's going to have to hit threes. There's absolutely no chance in hell that Scottie's becoming a first-team All-NBA type of guy if he's shooting 26% from 3. He's got to get that number up to 35. I'm sure it's going to be a huge process this offseason, to tweak the shot, to work it out. But yeah, overall, Jakob Poeltl with just an impressive game. I've talked all year about his regression as a rim defender. Tonight, nope. Tonight he was incredible at the rim. And I'm not just talking the 3 shots he blocked. I'm talking about his job on the defensive glass. 14 rebounds tonight. He was very active. And by the way, he was questionable coming into this game with back stiffness. So there's just a gutsy performance from Jakob Poeltl. Consistently presented himself for openings. Scored efficiently, shooting 66.6% from the field. I thought it was just a really good game from him. And yeah, off the bench again, Bruce Brown. At the half, he had 9 points, 3 steals, bunch of rebounds. He just kind of gave them the important buckets. You know what I mean? Like, he gave them those, you haven't scored in a minute and a half to 2 minutes. They've scored twice. We really need something here. I thought Scottie and Bruce broke the tension a couple of times for the Raptors with that stuff. To look at the team stats momentarily, the Raptors shot 27.3% from 3. Yikes, right? They've been shooting consistently like 40%-ish. So tonight you found out who you are and you hang your hat on your defense, right? I'm a huge fan of defensive teams, yo. I'm a huge fan of those 04 Detroit Pistons, the 08 Celtics. I love the OKC Thunder. I love teams who play defense. Teams like this, right? They held the New Orleans Pelicans. This was the lowest scoring half. They held the Pelicans to 40 points in the first half. This is the lowest scoring half, absolutely, of any team this season, right? So it was a very good effort defensively in the first half. I think it slipped a little bit in the second half as the team perhaps got tired, complacent, or whatever you want to call it. And I think largely, if you take out the free throws, and they were gifted a lot of free throws tonight, a lot of it was the Raptors just not helping themselves out. Grady had 4 fouls at one point. Orlando Robinson ended up picking up 4 fouls in the first half. So there's a lot of, assists. I don't know if you want to say the Raptors assisted the Pelicans by consistently fouling them. literally the first two plays of the game. Davion Mitchell fouls DeJounte Murray, and then it was a foul, I think, on Jakob and Zion Williamson. It was like 5 free points. You know what I mean? So it's like when the referees are going to kind of keep you in the game, or you're going to help the other team stay in the game like that. They were shooting horribly. They shot 21.4% from three. Some of it was them missing open threes, but a lot of it was just the Raptors defense, 6 for 28. I thought the Raptors competed their butts off defensively. There were so many late clock situations, so many times where either CJ McCollum or DeJounte Murray had to take like a really awkward finish, a couple of shot clock violations. They forced 13 turnovers. Points in the paint, of course, favored the Pelicans. Favored the Raptors. 64 points. A lot of that was Bruce Brown, RJ Barrett, was it Jamal Shead, Scottie Barnes? Like, again, the Raptors had success when they drove, but it was congested as hell, right? Even EC does make you think a little bit. Trey Murphy was playing tonight. He didn't play last night. Last time the Raptors played, the Pelicans played, they blew them out. And Trey Murphy didn't play. Zion didn't play that game, right? It was just DeJounte Murray and CJ McCollum. So, yeah, overall, like from the Pelicans side, did anyone really pop off for the Pelicans? Not really. I mean, Zion had his 31 in 27 minutes, and I'm sure, like, to most of you, that's crazy, right? And he also had 3 blocks, which is generally surprising. But even Misi, I mean, you held him to 0 points, right? So you held DeJounte Murray to 5 for 17 shooting. Trey Murphy has been a little bit cold from 3. I mean, this is a guy who I wouldn't be surprised shoots 45% from 3 in a season. He is shooting like mid 30, low 30 this year. So 14 points for him. And off the bench, they didn't get a hell of a lot. I mean, they got 7 points from Hawk, and they got 9 points, very impactful points actually from Javonte Green. But I don't think that they really ever found a groove, or that this game was ever really in their balance up until, like, I mean, if you look at the win probability, whoopsies, sorry about that. If you look at the win probability, it was pretty much Raptors game pretty much the whole way through, up until like the final possession of, where, okay, the Pelicans took a 1-point lead. It was pretty much the Raptors game from wire to wire. So, if you're a fan who went to watch beautiful basketball, you might want to ask for a refund. But if you're a fan who went to watch a win, if you're a fan who went to watch a team compete their butts off, if you're a fan who cares that your team, is guarding up and chesting up and taking elbows to the face and still coming back to it, if you care that your team is boarding and putting a body on people, if you care about that stuff, then this was your game and you got your money's worth, because I think the Raptors really competed hard. Let's take a look at the film session. If you want to call in, the call-in link is in the description below. This won't be a super long, super rambly live. I do want to be very, very careful about the film session, because I will reiterate, last post game we did end up getting a copyright strike. I don't know if it was because of the film session, so I've kept the clips a little bit shorter. There's no like 18-second clips this time. Hopefully it's okay. I'm pretty sure it was because of the TNT clip, the Scottie Barnes interview, with NBA TV. So I'm just going to assume it was that and move forward. But I do want to say, if you get 2-3 copyright strikes, they can just take down your channel. And I really, really don't feel like building this shit back up from scratch. So, all right, let's do it. Okay. The aforementioned foul. Like, now I'm a little bit conflicted on how this is a foul on Davion Mitchell when Ibnisi basically throws him into DeJounte Murray. If you're the referee, I understand you don't have the best angle on that, but that's tough for me. Like, how are you going to call that? Okay, now the aforementioned rim defense. All right, now we talk about layers of defense, right? Defense works on a string. We've said that multiple times. Well, Grady has to do a good enough job to delay this drive by Trey Murphy in order for Jakob to get back into this play, which means you kind of got to send him in the right direction. You got to angle him baseline, throw him a little bit off balance, that final thrust, that push, and that's going to create enough time for Yak to actually recover into this play. And here, Jakob is just going to meet him at the apex of the shot. Trey Murphy is a very, very elite athlete. Like, he's a jumper. That's a poster in most normal situations, but just good stuff. Now, a couple times tonight, they decided they were going to double Scottie Barnes in the post. I'm going to make this as a PSA to every single team, any coach out there who ends up coming across this by some divine miracle. Do not double Scottie Barnes in the post. He will make you pay for it every single time. He's not the one. Like, this is not Giannis Antetokounmpo in 2018 where you're going to double him and confuse him. He sees all these doubles coming and he'll dissect them so well. The incredible thing about Scottie getting like almost 20 points tonight is, like, I don't even know how he got 20 points. The way he was scoring, the way he was shooting, I was surprised he had as many as he had. He had a lot of his points in the fourth quarter. Surprise, surprise. He had 10 points in the fourth quarter when the Raptors most desperately needed that scoring. But I do want to say, like, his process on the ball is a work in progress. But you're going to make his life so much easier if you double him, because right here, the second this double comes, boom, he's already seen it. He's already seen it. You know who Scottie Barnes reminds me of? He reminds me of a raptor. He reminds me of, like, literally a velociraptor, because that visual acuity to see sort of everything out of the side of your eyes, to always understand where everything is, that's very raptor-like. So Scottie Barnes is officially a raptor, okay? Because he has the angle to throw this. Now, I talk about big playmakers all the time. Why do I value Scottie so much? It's because he's a huge playmaker. Look at the angle on that pass. Just look at it. He is throwing a pass down to a 7-footer. Just a funny thought. When you're throwing a pass down to a 7-footer, there's nothing Javonte Green can do about this pass. Like, you're doing everything right, and he's still getting this pass through. And it's perfect. And Yves Missi cannot block this in time. So it's just like, plays like this give you a vision of what can happen when he becomes an elite scorer and you have to double, because it's really hard. Really hard. Gregory saying, great work on the panel today. Yo, shout outs to everyone from this community. Medved, Photime, Gregory. Gosh, there was somebody else as well. Zigsaw Puzzle. 4 of you sent super chats on the panel. Wow, that's such a huge representation and makes us look very, very good. Maybe, hopefully, I don't know if it moves them at all, because they get a lot of super chats, but maybe it moves them to think that maybe we should talk a little bit more about the Raptors. I don't know. Maybe y'all can write some comments, be like, hey, talk more about the Raptors. We'll send more super chats. But it's good, man. It's good. I have no idea, how the league. Well, I mean, I have some idea how the league works, but what I know is that you got to put things up in the air. You got to put things up in the air all the time. So me talking about Scottie Barnes on something that is so international and getting 20, 30,000 views every single time for it, I know that has an impact somewhere. I know that has to have an impact somewhere. Someone out there is getting converted into thinking more about Scottie than they would otherwise. So it's the same thing with the Raptors, man. Y'all thought I was annoying on the panel. Like, I'm just a message to any panel viewers. If y'all thought I was annoying when the Raptors were losing, just wait till you see what a front runner I am. Oh my God. I'm going to talk so much shit about every single fan base and be like, Raptors winning a championship if the Raptors win 6. I mean, if you really do get me, you'll understand I'm a very, very big fan of this team. I try to present myself as very objective and, obviously a little bit more emotionally detached, and I don't care if they're losing or whatever, but I love this team and I'm very, very happy that they're playing so well. Pensare represent. Thank you so much, Gregory, for being a mod here, for being a supporter of the panel, for being a supporter of me, and obviously being a supporter of Pensare basketball. Thank you so much. Okay, now here, the one and only 3 that Scottie is going to hit. Okay, here, little defense, like it's things like that where it's just you're getting in the way and you're disrupting the process of their offense. And here, Scottie Barnes is just gonna step right into it. A little bit contested, but that's a 3, right? Next play. I mean, look at this defense. Just look at this defense. Orlando Robinson and Scottie Barnes will converge on Zion Williamson, who is a freight train and very hard to stop. And boom, that allows Bruce Brown to get in the passing lanes. Well, I mean, Zion's, there's no way if you don't pressure Zion that he's not finding Trey Murphy here. He's looking for Trey Murphy, but this is just enough on like pressure, Scottie kind of holding the hand a little bit, Orlando Robinson being there, that you force the error. This is why you pressure. You pressure to make people uncomfortable. You make people uncomfortable so they make mistakes. That was a mistake. Okay. All right. Take a look at this. Boom. Oof. This was a tough call. So clearly that is off the Raptors, but it was called a jump ball. Everyone was very upset. Also, it's worth noting that I did not clip it, but Willie Green did get ejected from this game. So sucks for Willie Green, I guess. Hang on one second here. Just wanted to see what happened. Oh man. Wow. Miami actually beat Orlando in double OT. That's crazy. I did not expect that coming. Very curious to see who did what in that game. Sorry, I was just curious about how that game ended because it did go to double OT. Okay, here, Davion Mitchell pressuring up on Jose Alvarado and just takes this sort of excuse me foul from Zion Williamson. Yes, Zion Williamson, you cannot run over Davion Mitchell like that. But just very, very pesky defender. Great play. Great play. This one brought the house down. That was great to see. RJ Barrett kind of cutting off the ball, one of his strengths, and Jakob Poeltl just great, great pass there in the middle of the floor. The Raptors talked a lot in their coaching clinic about the value of playmaking in the middle of the floor. Yeah. Okay. Look at the defense here. Again, this is everybody. This is not just Bruce Brown. This is Davion. This is Scottie. This is Grady. Everybody is doing their job here, right? Everyone is in the right place. Now here, 2.6 seconds forces a really tough, like this is just Bruce Brown having a lot of length, right? Bruce Brown having that sort of extension, forcing this tough pass to CJ McCollum and Davion recovering in time to force the pump fake. And that's a shot clock violation. Defense has to work on a string. That was a string. That was a string. Okay. You're not going to stop Zion one-on-one for the most part. But I'm conflicted about this play because if Grady doesn't get there, that's probably a dunk for Zion. Grady does get there, so it allows Scottie to get back into the play, but he doesn't get there in time, so it's a foul. I don't know. There's a lot to be thought there. But I thought Scottie did a pretty good job in the one-on-one matchups against Zion. I don't think like Zion was cooking his food or anything like that. Okay, this was great defense. Just another great defensive possession, right? Multiple efforts, right? Effort 1, effort 2, right? It's just like you have to close possessions with a defensive rebound. Like there's a couple of times tonight, and there's one play we're going to look at where the Raptors did everything right defensively, but they didn't close the possession with a defensive, with a defensive rebound. We had this entire debate on the panel today whether Jokic's rebounding is part of his defense. It absolutely is. You're not closing a defensive possession without a rebound. And tonight, the Raptors had a couple of possessions where they did everything right, but boom, there's an offensive foul. So you have to close those possessions. Here, Davion Mitchell, the benefactor of effort. And it's so funny that Grady trails this play. And it's like when Davion goes up for this, he knows. Like he knows this is missing. He's been around Davion long enough. But solid effort from Davion and great pursuit by Grady. Far too often, you assume when a player has a head of steam there that he's gonna make the shot. Don't ever assume. Run the floor. They always taught us that in high school. Here, Scottie Barnes is so much to me as how you recover once you're beat. You're beat right here. You're beat 100%. This should be an extension and a dunk. But the physics of how you move, like look at this play and tell me, should he be able to block this? He is still down on the ground. Murray is already up. I want you to think about that, okay? As I'm going to slow this down to a crawl pace of 24 or 25% to show you the physics of Scottie, okay? Crawl it down. Beat, launch. Again, Scottie's still on the ground. Murray's basically in the rim, man. He's a foot and a half away. He's a foot and a half away from the rim. How does he catch this? Yo, can I do the Jaws music? Hang on one second. I'm gonna do the Jaws music. Dun 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 dun. How did he block that? How the hell did he block that? Yo, that's nuts. That's nuts. That's like some LeBron James freakish, Giannis Antetokounmpo athleticism there. Like that's so special. I don't know how the hell you get that. Gregory saying no copyright. That's funny. That's funny. I don't think you get copyrighted for humming a tune, or maybe you do. Damn. Okay. I just love playmaking, from this position on the court because you got a mismatch. They have to make a decision. DeJounte Murray's not stopping Scottie Barnes in the post. He's very slight of frame. And for the second time in this film session, they're going to double aggressively. That last time they doubled with a smaller defender, Javonte Graham, and he shot all over. And sorry, he didn't shoot over him. He passed over him. This time, they're going to double with a player that's roughly close to Scottie's size, which is Eve Misi, who's about 6'9", 7'4" wingspan. And it makes no difference because, as you can see, he sees everything. And here he's going to get, that should have been an N1. I don't understand how the hell that wasn't an N1, but okay, cool. Cool. Okay, I said Ochai Agbaji was basically invisible, but this play was incredible. Great defense. Number one, great defense pressuring from Bruce Brown. Super underrated, right? Forces Trey Murphy to pass out with 6 seconds to go. DeJounte Murray catching the ball at close to 34 feet. Here he's going to turn around, and right here he realizes, oh shit, I got 5 seconds. Now here, Ochai Agbaji just has to contain the first two dribbles of the move. Dribble one, dribble two, contain, contest, forces a really tough shot. Now here, RJ Barrett, unfortunately, who had a much better defensive game overall, has been much better defensively over the last few weeks, had a terrible brain fart here where he doesn't box out Javonte Green. And Javonte Green is just going to get this basketball. And insult to injury, you're 68-60, right? So it's kind of closing in right now. Double insult to injury is you foul, right? So it's just small things like this need to be cleaned up. But the Raptors played damn near perfect basketball tonight, man. Like, I mean, forget the makes and misses. If they made shots tonight, they blew them up by 40. They didn't make shots and they won by a lot. Okay, Orlando Robinson. Scottie passes the ball to Orlando Robinson, cuts. This is something that Scottie has done a lot less of this year, right? He's not, he's a very good player off the ball. But I want to say 85 to 80% of his offense right now is coming on the ball. And that's important. But it is also important to realize that when it's winning time, he can easily go back to the strength, which is off the ball. He can become, a knockdown, mid-range catch and shoot guy. He doesn't have to self-generate all of his mid-range shots on the turnaround. So again, going for the harder shot diet at the cost of efficiency, at the benefit of development is okay. But when it comes to winning time, he can still do shit like this all the time. What did Brian say? Easy ones. He gets easy ones because he's a really smart basketball player. Whenever he wants to score 2 points, if his team desperately needs 2, he can always put his head down and go to the rim and attack. Or he can cut away from the basketball and just catch with those giant mitts and he can just put it up. Like, it's not difficult for Scottie Barnes to score 22 points. The difficulty is not scoring 22 points. The difficulty is scoring 22 points like a superstar. That's the difficult part. I want to say yes, boss, to this one. Scottie Barnes taking Zion Williamson to the woodshed. I mean, this was a real gut check moment, because there is an expectation sometimes when you have these marquee matchups and you have your Scottie Barnes just fresh off of being named Eastern Conference Player of the Week. You have Zion Williamson on the other end, obviously, considered by many when he's healthy a superstar. And Zion had just scored on Scottie. So this was a real response moment. What are you going to do? Right. He just big boyed you. What are you going to do? And I thought this was just a great response from Scottie, just putting his shoulder down and going into Zion's body. And oh, by the way, he didn't just get 2 points. He got 2 points plus the one at the line. Here, again. Boom. Cook him, man. Cook him. Reach. You reach, I teach. Boom. Foul. Goes to the line for 2 more. Scottie's been doing a much better job of getting to the line. Big shout outs to Christy Sinclair. If y'all remember last year, Scottie Barnes rocked a Christy Sinclair jersey. For those of you who don't know, Christy Sinclair is arguably the greatest female soccer player, if not definitely the greatest female soccer player in Canadian history. She's won numerous accolades with the Canadian team, and Scottie rocked her jersey. And she was there supporting, supporting Scottie. There was a interview with Kayla Gray where Kayla said, she's going to hook it up where she just wants an autographed jersey from Scottie Barnes. I just thought it was great, man. She's the women's soccer GOAT, according to many of you. I don't really watch a lot of women's soccer. I watched women's soccer when Mia Hamm was playing, but I haven't watched a lot of Christy Sinclair. I've watched 1 game of hers. She seemed awesome, though. She is now retired, but yes, she won Canada the gold medal, says Raven. All right. A little bit more. Awesome rim defense, man. The rim protection from Jakob Poeltl tonight was just so elite. Again, Chris Boucher doing his job, making this drive a little bit harder. And here, Jakob Poeltl with the block. Very nice. Very nice. Here, I said finish him, Boucher. This was the finishing touch. To me, this game is like right in the balance right now. They score again, maybe it's close. You score again, it's a knockout blow. There's that moment in every single game where you're like, this is the knockout blow. To me, this was the knockout blow. Jamal Shead pass to Chris Boucher. Boucher, boom. And the celebration might have been the best one. I'm surprised he didn't get hating a technical for that. What was that? Was that the bow and arrow? Ah, that was the bow and arrow. Very cool. Philip Peralta, thank you so much. The tickets go on sale. The tickets specifically, I should have corrected that. The tickets specifically will go on sale tomorrow. The passes have been on sale, yes. So the passes prices have been adjusted to American dollars. They're going to move to Canadian dollars tomorrow. We're going to start pushing Pendance a lot. We've been a little bit late in pushing everything out, but we've been securing a beautiful lineup of films for Pendance. We have over 72 films confirmed right now. We're looking at one final one. But yeah, everything's gonna be clarified for everybody tomorrow. Pendance exactly 1 month away now. It's 31 days away. This is finishing time for us. It's closing time for us. A lot of filmmakers coming. Big basketball documentary coming your way. I'm gonna see when I can share a trailer of that with you guys. It's gonna be very, very cool. But yes, what is also very cool is this super chat by Cast2929. I meant to send this on 12K night, but I fell asleep. Congrats on the milestone. I watch all your content and only wait the panel when you're a guest. I appreciate all the work you put into covering the Raps for us. Respect. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you as always. It's always it's always humbling to see the support from this community on all walks of life. Like whether we're talking Pendance, we're talking the panel. It's really awesome. I don't know what I've done for you you to support me this way, but thank you very much. I'm very, very humbled by it. Okay. All right. Perfect pass, Jamal Shead. See, again, I said Scottie Barnes, without the basketball, he can do this anytime he wants, right? Anytime. Because of course, when you have the basketball, all eyes are on you. All the attention's on you. When you don't have the basketball, you could just cut. You have big hands. You could find, scoring options. It's much easier to score without the basketball. Much easier, especially if you're a smart player, right? Cutting off of somebody. Can you imagine Scottie Barnes cutting off of Nikola Jokic right now? He would score 25 points per game every night. It's not that complicated. Basketball is not complicated when you're a super smart player who finishes well. The issue is right now generating that offense is a lot harder. Okay. I say Scottie shutting down Zion in the paint. Am I talking a little bit too much shit? No. Boom. Yo. I mean, that's big time. That's big time, man. Like you're taking contact. Zion's a beast. The game, look at the score. 97 to 109, 1 minute to go, and you're putting your face on the line. your body on the line to try and chest up, wall up on Zion, right? And you know what? I agree with you. He's making him look small. There is no way in hell that you have eyes and you legitimately think Scottie Barnes is 6'7". Like NBA.com, adjust. Look at what I'm looking at. Zion's at his friggin' shoulder. I mean, I'm not even trying to gas him up. I know Scottie's not 7 feet tall, but yo, I remember one time. No, I can't share that story. But I will say this. People very, very close to Scottie have confirmed he is not 6'6", 6'7", 6'8". Like he's a legit 6'9", and he's a legit 6'9" playmaker, and he's a legit 6'9" Swiss Army knife on defense. So just a really big play there. Anyways, that's it for the film session. Mubz, you had called in, but you're gone now. So if you want to call in, if anyone wants to call in, please, definitely hit the link in the description below. Look like a child trying to get the ball when Scottie extended. I mean, I want to respect Zion a little bit, but for sure. Like, I mean, he's. It's interesting how they're both listed out on these top 25, under 25 rankings, and depending on how you think about it, clearly one of these players is better than the other, right? Like I'm going to say clearly Scottie because I'm for the availability, I'm for the leadership, the intangibles. Some people will say clearly Zion because they're looking at just the scoring potential, and they're looking at I'm looking at the all-around impact, right? Metrap Beats, do you still hate Davion Mitchell? I've never hated Davion Mitchell, not for a second, not at all. I don't hate Davion. I've had issues with Davion's decision making, and I've had issues with how he's been covered. Being covered as a super defender who, I mean, look, he's been amazing. He's been a huge part of what the Raptors are doing well, but you'd be lying to yourself if you didn't say that RJ Barrett's drives are way more contested because Davion's on the court, or that Scottie Barnes' shooting is a little less effective because Davion's on the court. Like I would definitely say that with a better offensive player, you're going to be more efficient. But what he does for you is he just makes you very stable. Very, very stable. Tankathon update. Sure. I don't think you want to see this, so maybe close your eyes because, the Raptors have moved down one more spot. Every game, they move down one more spot. And, I think they've moved down to 6 now. So this is official. The Raptors have officially won 4 straight as the Nets have lost 7 straight. And that's where we're at. Okay, we got a caller. Elliott, what's up? Hello? Elliott, you have to turn off your YouTube. So if you turn off your YouTube and put in headphones, that will help.
Yes. Oh shit.
Okay, we've lost Elliott. Anyway, the Raptors, I mean, and your next game is against this team right here. Your next game is against the 6-39 Washington Wizards, who are having a surprise dysfunctional season with Kyle Kuzma. Yo, like Jason Williams saying, LOL, first timer. Yeah, don't be dissuaded. I don't bite. I mean, if you have some technical issues, we'll all bear with it. We would love to hear what people have to say about the Raptors, about the tank, about whatever. It's cool. I'm getting a little bit better at dealing with trolls. I think, in general, dissenting opinions, trolls, controversial thoughts, etc. I'm trying to get a little bit better with it. I got to be honest. Today on the panel, someone called me a Turkish slave because they wanted to make a point about the Ottoman rule in Serbia, and I was just about to friggin' snap. So clearly, I'm not healed. I got work to do. Yo, Elliott, what's up?
Okay, we're good.
Okay, perfect. What's up?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Rob, I just want to commend you on your 12,000 subscribers. I think you're the best post rap game analyst. I think ever.
Okay. I'm gonna blush. Please don't say.
No, ever. No. I'm gonna say ever. I'm gonna say ever now. I'm gonna say ever. Why? Because your granular, and I do mean granular knowledge of basketball and this team surpasses all others, and it is to be commended. So I'm giving you your flowers now. Here they
I
are.
appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed. No, I was just I was hanging on to your last live that you were talking about this being a crossroads, and the favorable schedule that the Raptors have going forward, especially with Chicago coming into town and Washington soon to be played as well. And I find it. I understand totally what you're saying, because we can get a bag load of draft picks from the likes of Bruce Brown, from the likes of Boucher, who was on fire tonight. It seems that Poeltl is he's really pulling it together, and he's going to get a lot of eyes on him and a few others as well. But I'm thinking, is winning more important at this juncture? Is having a run towards the playoffs okay? You get knocked out, but still, breeding a winning culture, is that more important now more than ever? And I just want to get your take on things in terms of the balance, and if indeed is it better to tank now and let these players go for draft picks, getting a grab bag of draft picks, including our own, or is it better for us to breed that winning culture?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? Because going into the season, I said I was never going to root against wins or losses. Like, it was just going to be, I'm going to take it as it goes. And it's interesting because Bobby Webster said something very, very similar at the beginning of the year. He said, we don't control the draft, so we're not going to try to game it. All we can control is that we want our core, which is specifically Scottie, Grady, RJ, these guys, to get meaningful minutes together. So, are games more meaningful when you're actually playing for something? Yeah. Do you develop a little bit better, or is the intensity a little bit better? Could you maybe make a slightly bigger impact on your development and also your asset base and value, whether you trade them now or you trade them in the off season, right? Yeah, like I think there's something to be really gained from winning. I do. Like, it sounds crazy that I'm saying this, that I have to say it out loud, but yeah, man, like winning is good. Winning is a good thing. At the same time, the opportunity cost of the draft pick is a big variable. We don't know what that draft pick turns into. We don't know, right? We can only hypothesize. Like, let's say right now, like we won four straight, we won 6 of the last 7 or whatever. So we don't know what we would do with the 3rd or 4th pick in this year's draft. We really don't. What if we come close to the draft and Dylan Harper falls to 4 and we're sitting there at 8 and we're like, oh, we were right there. You never know. But it's like, that's a decision you got to make as an organization. And I think the Raptors always lead from the heart. Darko, Masai, just meeting these people throughout the years, I've always felt like they have that, what does this say about us mentality? What does this say? When we throw Fred VanVleet at the trade deadline and throw him to Milwaukee, what does that say about us to the league? What does that say about us to our fans? What does that say about us to our players? So right now, your team is rolling. What does it say about you to all these guys who are working so hard if you just basically deflate their tire right now and just say, nah, we're good? Because these guys, they're competitors. They all were like the best player in their state. RJ Barrett doesn't care about Kaman Malawach. He's another Duke Blue Devil, but he doesn't care about it. It's the fans that care about it. So the way I see it is, do the right thing, honestly, would have been to trade Jakob Poeltl coming into this season, so you don't even end up in this situation. But now that you haven't, and now you're winning, you got to let the team kind of figure it out. Now, I'm just going to say this. You lose to Chicago, yeah, like now we can talk. But if you keep winning, I can't stop it. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I can't see this team losing to Chicago now. I think Darko's done a magnificent job in terms of tightening up the defense, in terms of not allowing for easy looks from for the other team. There seems to they seem to be playing on a string at the moment, and you don't want to lose that rhythm right now. I think they're in a really good rhythm, especially after the trip to Atlanta. I think they were exceptional against a play-in playoff team. And you don't want to lose that rhythm. They're in good rhythm right now, and they have a good chemistry going here. And as you say, the draft is an inexact science. What are we carrying into this draft this year? Are we still carrying a first or a second, or is it just the first?
So we're carrying our own first round pick, unprotected, no restrictions, and we're carrying Portland's second round pick. So the Portland second right now is 37s. So
okay.
Yeah, that's what we have, and provided we don't add anything else. And then next year we have our own pick, again, unprotected. And we also have the Indiana pick, top 4 protected, and we have our own second round pick next year. We lose our second round pick this year because of the Jakob trade.
Right. And and you say this draft is deep this year, I believe. Is that right?
I think it's deep. I think you could sell yourself on all-star level potential all the way to the late end of the lottery.
Right.
I think there's a fall off maybe around 15, 16 from what I've seen, but in the top 15, like there's some legit, starter level talents. I don't know about MVPs and all-stars. Maybe that's restricted to the top, but if we're just talking like Grady Dick level prospects, Jacoby Walter level prospects, there's like at least 15 of them in this draft.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, can we trade up to get high in the draft for those pieces, or do we just trade? I mean, that's the dichotomy right now. It's just that Scottie being just awarded, Player of the Week in the NBA, his accolades, he's getting on NBA TV in the States, and Charles Barkley's calling him out now as one of the top 15 in the NBA. I mean. And you can see how enthusiastic the crowd is now, even though they're usually enthusiastic in Toronto, anyways. I mean, we have a multitude of riches in terms of our fan base. Our fan base, win, lose, or draw will always come out because it's like it's Gucci Row every night. But anyways, but still, to have, it is a dicey sort of thing because, again, as you say, there are a lot of favorable matchups that are coming in right now, and we can play towards the play-in. But I think it's still leaning right now towards, okay, if they can sell you on a great deal, some playoff team, you might take it. You might as well take it because, again, for the plethora of draft picks that are coming in, that could really build our squad for years to come.
Well, I think it works sort of in the Raptors' favor that you don't have a soft schedule going right into the trade deadline. So, we're creatures of recency bias. So if the Raptors end up losing, let's just say, okay, well, what are their last few games going into the trade deadline are as follows. So they will face, hold on, let me just show you here. They will face the Bulls on the 31st of January. Then they will face the LA Clippers on February 2nd. The Clippers are, in my opinion, like the best defense in the NBA by far. Okay. They're going to test Scottie, RJ. They're going to test all your ball movement. They're going to shut it down. If Kawhi is playing that game, it's a Kawhi coming to Toronto game. That's a huge game.
Yeah,
so, and then you've got New York here. You've got 4 games at home. You're on the road against Washington. And then you got a 4-game homestand. And then you got the trade deadline. And then after the trade deadline, you're cooked because if you don't make those deals and you keep winning these games, you got OKC, Houston, Philly, Cleveland, Miami, Phoenix, Boston. That could be a 7-game losing streak so easy. So it's like you gotta show me who you are when New York comes to town, when Memphis comes to town, when the Clippers come to town. And I feel like for the Raptors, these trade deadline deals, they end up extending all the way to the final buzzer. Unfortunately, a lot of these deals are going to get done the day before, the day of, the hour of.
Right.
There's a lot of teams that need what the Raptors have. Yeah. I'm looking at the Dallas Mavericks right now, who have a young player like Omax Prosper, Canadian guy. I'm looking at them having a player who's presumably out for the rest of the season in Maxi Kleber. And I'm saying they could use a Kelly Olynyk or a Chris Boucher. Yeah. Next to a Luka Doncic. Like you got one of the top 5 players in the league. You got Kyrie Irving at 32. You got to make a deal right now. Like you got to, and the Raptors have something to give you, but it's like, you know, okay, Omax Prosper, that helps. But it's like the Raptors are kind of forcing the hand right now because, you know, easily you could win against Washington and you could win against Chicago. And if you win even like one of these Clippers, Memphis, New York, I feel like Masai Ujiri is going to have a crisis of conscience and should be like, how do I tear apart a team that's won like 9 out of their last 12?
Yeah. I think the key point is in that homestand. I think if they go 2-2, if not 3-1, 4-0 during that homestand, I think he keeps it together. I don't see him trading it away. I think he lets a good time roll until, you know, the end of the season, see where they land, see if they can get into a play-in. I really don't see him breaking up the band that easily because, you know, Masai is very, very loyal to his players. Unless you know it's you know the gig is up and you realize, okay, I can make a deal here, and you know, it was a masterstroke in terms of trading away Siakam and getting and you know, getting what we did for OG as well. So
I mean, it's also worth noting how many teams can you think of that could go on a 4-game win streak without their highest paid player?
That's right.
IQ has been missing. And some people think this is an indictment of IQ. I don't think those people have an objective brain cell. If they think that Emmanuel Quickley is somehow some sort of cancerous, you know, loser, Emmanuel Quickley has won everywhere. Everywhere he's gone, he's a winning player. He won in New York, contributed majorly in, you know, in New York. He has been a positive player his whole life. So the idea that a movement shooter who has that type of, you know, elevated offense, especially relative to the 2 players who currently are playing in his place, the idea that that guy can't help you, it's absurd to me. It's really absurd. I think it's being carried by a lot of the conversation on the air, you know, on the broadcast, where they just keep talking about how pesky Davion's defense is. Like, great, yes, but most of the Raptors' defensive effort right now is not just Davion. Davion been doing this all year. Davion's been pressuring the basketball all year. It's the rotations behind him. Right.
Yeah.
It's Scottie picking up like two offensive players. It's Jakob finally rotating. It's Bruce Brown being so competent. It's Kelly Olynyk suddenly blocking shots at the rim. You know, it's Orlando Robinson being a rim protector. Like this team has bought in. There was apparently a report by Amit Mann that Scottie called out some of his, you know, lesser team defenders and just said, like, y'all got to hold up. And apparently, we've been seeing RJ Barrett competing. We're seeing Grady Dick competing more on defense. We're seeing also a lot of accountability from Darko Rajakovic, where, like, okay, you know, previously Grady would go like 6 minutes, 5-6 defensive possessions missed, and he'd stay in the game. Now it's like 2-3 hook. Like, you're gone. You know, you're out. And that's how you build that accountability, because you gave him the opportunity, and now you're taking that opportunity away by holding him accountable and saying, okay, and there's a clear directive of like, okay, we may have had to play you 30 minutes a night before because we didn't have Bruce Brown. We didn't have, you know, healthy Jakobi. Guys were out. You got a lot of opportunity. But now we got Bruce Brown, and if he's going to outplay you, you're going to lose time.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I mean, Darko's becoming more ruthless, which is what you need in a coach, really. I think the development style is starting to wane. He realized, okay, I got players around here. I'm going to start getting ruthless. I'm going to start cutting minutes when and where necessary. And also, you see Scottie Barnes becoming, you know, a top 10 player before our eyes. I see him being a top 10 player within the next year, very, very easily. Especially with the team around him, and especially if we get to, you know, become a 500, if not just above 500 team the next year, I could see him being a top 10 player. Again, I hark back to what Charles Barkley said: if Scottie's on a better team, he's an all-star this year, no doubt about that. And you know, and as you were saying in a previous podcast, I mean, the difference between 19 points and 23 points, you know, is so very little to a guy like Scottie Barnes, you know what I mean? And his health and I again, as I said, it's all about that homestand against those tough teams. If they can take the heat, I say keep the team together. If they can't, then, you know, break up the band where necessary, whoever gives you the better deal.
Absolutely. Anyways, Elliott, thanks a lot for calling in. I think this is the first time you're calling in. Do you have any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I'm coming to the PENSARE Film Festival.
Pendance.
Sorry, Pendance. My bad. They might as well call it Pensare. But no, Pendance Film Festival, absolutely. I will be there this year. I missed out last year, but I want to be there this year to support you. I think it's I think you'll have a fabulous lineup of movies available, and I want to check it out. I want to support you on that. But yeah, I mean, listen, I think the Raptors are where they are because they're healthy, because they're well coached, and finally starting to see the fruits of their labor, and they're way better than a lot of the teams out there. And now people are starting to be surprised, saying, "Where did this team come from?" Well, it was always there. It's just a matter of us getting away from these horrible injuries that's been befuddling us for the last few months. And Darko finally has a team he can work with, and now it's coming to fruition. So let's see where the work see where this next homestand takes us to the trade deadline, and then we'll go from there. But fantastic work. Best in the business. Salute you.
Appreciate you, man. I'm going to have to poke my head because I feel like it's full of helium now. I've just got a big head now. All right. Thanks a lot, Elliott. Appreciate you.
All right.
Cheers. Okay. I want to read some of these super chats because it's very, very nice what you guys have done. I don't like to usually disrupt the conversation midway to read super chats, but I want to say thank you so much to Greg, who once again started the momentum of super chats. Pensare represent. Cast 2222. I read this out earlier. I meant to send this on 12K night, but fell asleep. Congrats on the milestone. I watch all your content and only watch the panel when you're a guest. Appreciate all the work you're putting in covering the Raps for us. Thank you so much, Johnny A. 400 plus strong tuning in. Smash that like button, y'all. Well, absolutely. Please smash the like button. It costs you absolutely nothing. Something that does cost you a lot is a super chat like this. So Steve H from Taiwan. Yo, I got to get out to Taiwan someday because the amount of support that has come from Taiwan towards this podcast is honestly, I don't know who supports who more. Does Taiwan support Pensare Basketball more, or does Mexico support Scottie Barnes more? I really don't know. I don't know if y'all heard about this, but Scottie Barnes is number 6 in jersey sales in Mexico. Found that fascinating. But anyway, Steve has written how Darko are making sure our players are not absolutely not arrogant, make sure confident. That's how to show a quote winning team works. By the way, Rob, hopeful Pendance Film Festival successful. Hopefully Pendance Film Festival is successful. Thank you so much, Steve. Always appreciate your super chats, man. Appreciate you so much. Sparkling super sticker. Thank you very much. Gregory with the donation jar contribution. Bueno Kitty with definitely the funniest super chat for a dollar store wrench to fix the tank. I'm gonna let you know how that goes. I'm pretty handy. Maybe I could do it. Medved, thank you so much from Australia. We should tear it down after February 6th trade deadline. Quickly has hardly played any games. He's going to be rusty. We can't go far in the playoffs without him in peak form. A top 5 pick would be great. I hear you. A top 5 pick would be fantastic, but there's no way to guarantee a top 5 pick from the current vantage point that we're in. So we're going to go to Darko post-game because I need to stop speaking. And then we're going to go to Layne, who's calling in right after. Okay. So want to keep the good times rolling. The Raptors have won 4 straight. This is very, very good. I mentioned before I didn't want this to be a super long live. So this is not going to extend to 2 hours. So, we're going to hear from Darko, and then we're going to go to Layne. Always has some good things to say. And then we're going to end the live on Chris Boucher and Jakob Poeltl post game. All right. I'm always curious what Jakob has to say because, again, he doesn't lie. It's a very blunt thing. There are certain cultures where lying is just, like when we say, like, when you meet an Israeli person, they're just super blunt. They're always honest. Like, they're just going to tell you exactly how they feel about everything. Austrian people, I have personally found in my experience because of Pendance, because we've had a lot of Austrian films, I find Austrian people to be surprisingly just very blunt. German people as well. So I'm not trying to broad brush an entire country or culture with one, just an observation that certain cultures have a bit more of a bluntness and certain cultures sort of dance around the truth a little bit more. Canadians, no offense, dance around the truth a little bit more. I've personally found that I really just appreciate bluntness. So I don't have to second guess where I'm at with people. I don't have to second guess, like, I just want someone to be like, you know what? I don't like you. Like, I like that. I like when someone, absolutely. Okay, let's get to the Darko post game. Curious to see what he has to say. Here we go.
really good defensive first half. The second half, you guys did enough to get by, do you think?
I thought that we did a very poor job in the third quarter. I thought that turnovers and shot selection led to problems that we had in with transition defense and them scoring quite a bit. And that was exactly the message that I delivered to our guys, like that we got to get back to defending on a high level, and that we need to move the ball and play for each other, which ended up with us scoring 39 points and keeping them to 29 in the fourth quarter.
Scottie seemed to make a bigger effort to get into the paint, and I don't think he took any threes in the second half. Was that something you talked to him about as an adjustment, or? Somebody
asked me before the game. I guess he was listening to it, and he's just trying to do what you guys want. Just trying to please you. That was the game. Like what Scottie does, good job is he's doing a good job of reading what defense is giving him. Tonight he was getting more angles, and he took advantage of that, going more to the rim.
Jakob had maybe one of his more efficient nights in a long time. What did you see he was able to exploit?
Wow. 21 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, but that does not. That cannot say the full story of Jakob and what he's doing for us. There are so many things that defensively he's covering for us, that he's doing outstanding job of communicating. He's our connector on offensive end. He does unbelievable job for us. I'm really proud of him.
For the first part of the season, when you guys had defensive breakdowns, it felt like RJ was a part of those. The last couple nights, when you guys have been successful, feels like he's been a part of that defensive success as well. He had that, verticality stop this game. What has he changed, and how does it change you when he's starting like this?
Well, I'm coaching for 28, 29 years, and I still did not find the defensive schemes where 4 players play defense and 1 is not giving great effort and their defense works, or 2 players or 3 players. And that was happening to us. I'm not talking about RJ right now. That was happening to us quite a bit early in the season, that 3 guys, 4 guys doing what they're supposed to do, and 1 player might be late half of a second or does not follow the game plan, and that creates a lot of breakdowns. Right now we have all the guys locked in, and RJ is taking a lot of pride on defensive end. Right in front of our bench in the first half, he was pressuring, and he made Murphy dribble the ball out of the court. Oh yeah, and he's very capable when he puts his mind into it and desire. He's very capable of guarding on a high level. I thought that he did a really good job of rebounding the ball tonight as well. I thought that down the stretch he was playing winning basketball, that he was making the right plays, trying to involve everybody. So I'm seeing a lot of progress with RJ.
How much fun are you having watching Chris Boucher right now? It seems like everything's going in. It's got to be just kind of a blast where you shake your head at some point.
I love the way Chris is coming off the bench. I love the energy that he's bringing. He's playing with a lot of joy, with a lot of fun. And he missed, I think, first 2 shots there in the first half. And then he started to question. I told him, shoot the ball every single time. And you have open shots, rhythm shots, you need to shoot the ball. And that was the message for the whole team tonight. We did not necessarily shoot the 3 ball really well. But we had a lot of opportunities that we needed to shoot the ball better and more. So he's doing an outstanding job. Really proud of him right now.
Coach, what have you been seeing from Grady, not even just tonight, but recent stretch of games?
Grady he had a foul problem tonight. He did a great job offensively. He continues to move without the ball really well. He's finding opportunities to score. Unfortunately, tonight he was in the foul trouble, so they did not allow him to play more minutes. But I'm really satisfied how the Grady's playing.
Coach, Christine Sinclair was in the house tonight. She got a big standing ovation. I'm wondering if you've ever had a chance to speak to her, or what it means to just have a legend like that.
I missed. Who's that?
Christine Sinclair, a Canadian soccer player. She got a big ovation mid-game. Wondering if you got a chance to talk to her or anything like that.
I did not.
Coach, who's the best Serbian soccer player of all time?
That's a good question. I would say Dragan Stojkovic Pixi, who is actually the head coach of the Serbian soccer team right now.
Better than him. Chris, you came off the bench.
That was funny. Okay, Layne, what's up? Layne, you're on mute.
I'm so sorry about that. OH,
No worries. Io, what's up?
how about them Buckeyes, baby? How about them Buckeyes?
Not watching.
You know what? You didn't watch them win the national championship last week?
Nope.
Oh, come on. Someone did in this chat. OH, best team in the nation. BIA. Fuck Jim Noel.
Happy for you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was huge. I know Jameson Battle's happy. He was posting about it a lot. So
That's cool.
It was awesome. It was awesome. It's cool. I love having a Buckeye on the team.
I'm assuming this is football.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. I don't watch football. I mean, today on the panel, they asked like favorite football team, and I was just like, I'm going to say Kansas City Chiefs, and people are going to throw tomatoes at me. But yeah. Yeah.
This
Dallas
year,
Cowboys, I don't know. I don't watch a lot of football, man. I've watched like maybe 10 football games my whole life.
don't watch the Super Bowl this year. It's going to be terrible. It's literally like Stalin versus Mussolini. Like there's no winner at all. It's just it's meth. The Eagles and the Chiefs.
I mean, I think Mussolini is the lesser of the two evils. I'm just going to throw that out there.
All right. Well, then the Eagles or Mussolini.
Okay. Well, I'm rooting for the Kansas City Chiefs. Sorry to tell you.
Ah, man, I like Pat. Pat does good stuff, but
yeah,
not a Swiftie. Just one simple question for you. Do you know a dude by the name of Chris Boucher?
I've heard of him. Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think he has to do to earn an extension? Like, if he walks into Masai's office tomorrow and he says 3 years, $21 million, what are you telling him?
I'm telling him, let's talk. I mean, 3 years. I mean, look, here's the thing. Like, first of all, I want to know what the market is for Chris Boucher this offseason, because I saw players like him get $5 million to a minimum contract. I don't know if he's better than Gershon Yabusele right now. And Yabusele literally just signed a minimum. It was a prove-him deal, but still, I don't think he's an ideal fit for this, team. But he is a very, very big part of the sentimental culture of this team. He is the last player, the last vestibule, if you will, of that championship team. So maybe that's something that, you sentimentally care about. He's also just a player who I think he's very, very connected to Scottie. Right? He is 32, though. Right? He's 32 years old. So you are signing up for year 32, 33, 34, or 33, 34, 35. I don't know about 3-year deal, bro. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
So there's a few reasons. He started playing late. Other than the injury that ended his season last year, he hasn't had a big injury history. And even at that, like, what did he tear? He tore his MCL, didn't he?
I don't remember.
And he came back. Like, he came back this year ready to go right away. Like, he was like day one of training camp ready to go. Like, he springs back stuff fast. Plus, it's not like the dude's been playing AAU basketball since he was 8 years old. Right.
So we're talking about progressive load.
His knees are not beat into the ground. And you could see that by the way that dude moves. I would take 35-year-old Chris Boucher at $7 million. I still think he's a guy that can play 10 to 12 minutes a night at 35 years old.
I apologize. I said last vestibule. I meant last vestige. My bad. Good correction there, resident one. My bad. Yeah. So,
I don't think it's a negative. I mean, I think honestly having Kelly next year on potentially $13 million is worse than having a 35-year-old Chris Boucher on $7 million. I mean, I would sign him, and then I'm kind of indifferent on Davion, but regardless, Brown, he's playing great, but he's here to get picks. Do not let him walk out the door this summer for nothing. You have to at least get a second out of him. We know how valuable seconds are in today's NBA. You have to at least get a second out of him.
I mean, they got 3 seconds for Dennis Schroeder. We got no seconds for Dennis Schroeder.
We got nada for Dennis Schroeder.
We got nothing for Dennis Schroeder.
To be fair, Dennis was hooping as the number 1 option number 2 option on the Nets. My bad. No disrespect.
He was playing perfectly fine basketball for the Raptors too. He was perfectly fine. He was a perfectly serviceable player at $11 million. We traded him largely because he didn't want to come off the bench. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Resident one with a super chat. Man, y'all are so friggin' generous today. Thank you so much. This is like, I mean, we were having kind of a slow month from the revenue perspective on Pensare Basketball, but over the last three lives, this has pretty much course corrected us back to normal. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I can't even express to people how much I appreciate it. And you know, Canada's it's tough. It's a tough place to be in Canada right now. Layne, you're not in Canada, but all the tariff talk, all the dollar talk, all the 51st state talk, all the, you know, $20 bananas.
So what's going on, man? I heard Trudeau stepped down, but he's still speaking for Canada until his party picks a replacement. But then they're gonna have an election coming up, and I keep seeing this Pierre guy. I don't know what the hell's going on up there.
I mean, yeah, depending on who you believe, Canada's economy is either cooked or cooking, and you know, I'm not really. I feel like it's almost like a political statement to say which of those two I think it actually is. But what I do know is that Canadians, like the actual people, are the ones who are paying for everything. They're paying higher taxes. They're paying an incredible amount in terms of the hikes in property taxes. Even if you're a homeowner, you know, the property tax has just gone up like clockwork the last 2 years. I think leadership at the provincial level, if you're, you know, in Toronto, provincial level, at the city level, the municipal level, and at the national level has been horrendous. And so, you know, it's tough, but this is also some of those things where you have to factor in what 2020 did. You know, Canada, I think, relative to other countries, because I was part of a COVID think tank, and, you know, I spent 3.5 months doing a lot of policy work for other countries, and I saw how other countries were taking care of their people. I think Canada did a pretty decent job of taking care of their people during the layoffs and the shutdowns, and, you know, supporting businesses, supporting individuals. But there was a price to pay for that, and I think that price is inflation. Right. So the inflation has been out of control in Canada for years. The mortgage rates and the interest rates have been up. I think it's just a really tough time. But again, like, you know, is Canada, you know, going to turn into a third world country? There's also a lot of talk about immigration. You know, immigration has been such a hot button topic, you know, in both Canada and the United States. And it's unfortunate because, you know, I still am an ex-user. So I'm someone who sees all of the vitriol from both sides. And I got to tell you, man, like there is a real sense of scary racism that's brewing in Canada right now. Is actually legitimately scary. Like how angry people are at Indian people specifically, because there was a lot of Indian immigration into Canada under Trudeau. And yeah, it's like every time there was a video on X of an Indian kid in Brampton. I presume he's an Indian kid. His back was turned, who's crossing the road without looking. He gets hit by a car, and the most common comment was deport him. Like, I cannot find it in my mind to possibly hate somebody for trying to leave their country and trying to find something better for themselves. And I say that as an immigrant, you know, who left, you know, our family and Darko, presumably a lot of us, we all have like a great deal of empathy for any immigrant, because we know how hard it is to start from nothing, to start from scratch, to try and, you know, work super hard in a new country. And it's like every single day there's like a new scandal, or it's like, you know, carjackings. Brampton is scary now. Mississauga is scary now. I don't know, man. It's weird.
Nah,
It's
man,
weird stuff.
I hear you. I hear you. The world is a crazy place right now, but through it all, man, I mean, I don't know if you're a religious guy or not. Just gotta put your trust in Jesus. Really do.
I am religious. So and I do, you know, I don't push it on anybody, but I do want to say that, you know, whether you are religious, whether you believe in, you know, Christ or Allah, or, you know, whether you're Hindu or, you know, Jainism, Sikhism, whatever it is that you believe in something, man, because the faith, like when you have faith, like it does suspend some of your worry. like some of your anxiety and consistent anxiety that you feel and have. Me personally, like I know that personally, like, and again, it's my heart goes out for people who are slandered this way, whether this was Asian people during the pandemic, or whether it is Indian people now, or whether this was Black people in the 90s, because I know what it's like to be looked at as the other. Like I've felt it. I've felt that suspicion. So even around 2000, 2001, if you recall what happened in 2001,
Right.
being Muslim in the United States was very difficult. Like
Yeah.
I have family members who, when we get a tan, we're like an automatic check. Random security check. I was like, random, huh? Random, huh? I just came back from Puerto Rico. Random my ass, So I get it. And I, once you have been the other, you would never wish to do that to somebody else. So I've always looked at it from the perspective of, my stepfather was Jewish, and when I went into finance, someone was like, you should really consider hyphenating your last name and kind of hiding the Serbian part of your last name, because that doesn't do too well in the finance circle. And I was like, look, I'm going to succeed as a Serb. I'm going to make sure that everyone knows, like, that, that's what I am, and that's why I'm so proud of Darko. But also, like, I remember it was like early 2000s when you get on a plane and someone finds out you're from Serbia or you were born in Yugoslavia, like they just assume you're like a barbarian, or you're from that like what Trump would call a shithole country. Like, but like by 2011, 2012, when you tell someone you're from Serbia, they just say, oh, like Djokovic. And now if you tell an NBA fan you're from Serbia, they'll be like, oh, like Jokic, and that happens because people from our country go out into the world and do good stuff,
Yeah.
And that's just what you have to do. That's how you beat it. That's how you beat it.
Yeah, no, I dated a girl for 5 years. Her dad was Middle Eastern. He's from Pakistan, and he moved here in the late 90s. And I mean, literally the first time I met the guy, I went to go shake his hand because I went over to his house for dinner, and he looked at me and goes, "Oh, you're white." So like I already knew I was in for something tough, but as I was talking to him a little bit more, like his hatred for white people in general just came from the way he was treated after 9/11, right? And just hearing those stories as a Middle Eastern man in America right after 9/11 was just absolutely insane. Like the way he was treated, you would have thought he was the one that set it up. So I mean, yeah, no, I hear you 100%, and unfortunately, it's everywhere.
Hatred creates hatred.
Yep.
That man, you're, like there's so many people in my building that I remember there was this one lady. She was our next door neighbor. She was ironically also from Pakistan, and every year, she would leave like food. She would knock on people's door around Ramadan, and she would leave food for people. And I found it kind of curious that she never knocked on our door, ever. She would, and it wasn't just she was knocking on other Muslim people's doors. She was knocking on everyone's door. But it just so happened that she was under the impression that Serbian people didn't like Muslim people. She just had that. She had that in her mind that, okay, all Serbs don't like me. And I was just like, where did that come from? Like we talked about it one day, and then the next year she brought us food, and I was very thankful for that, because the food was damn delicious. But it's so important to eradicate that, like to kick out that element of, I don't like you because of where you're from, what you look like, what you believe in. No, man, the only reason I will never like somebody or like somebody is who they are. Like what they're about. Like, what are you actually about? If you're about destroying people, I don't care if you're from my city, you can go to hell, but if you're about building people up, how can I ever be against you? I don't care where you're from.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Shout out the comment for talking about the Asian people that were attacked. Yeah, it was crazy in New York in 2020. There was like gangs that would just, their sole mission was to shove Asian people onto the tracks of subways. I mean, it was absolutely insane.
Oh, I think I've shared this story before on this podcast, but there was this one Asian woman who was on the train. It was like the height of the pandemic, around 2020 September, and my girlfriend and I were sitting down on the subway, and this elderly white couple just started screaming at this woman to go back to her country. Why did she bring the disease here? La 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 la. And I started to get so angry. And I started screaming, and I literally came from one side of the train to the other side of the train to tell them to shut the fuck up. And they call me a race traitor. They're like, you're a race traitor. You're sticking with them. And I was just like, my God, like, how is it that there's 150 people on this train right now, and I'm the only person speaking? Like,
What's
there should
so
be a revolt.
what's so crazy is how like unqualified and unexperienced people are when they talk about COVID. Like they're sweeping under the rug that the CIA literally came out 3 days ago and said it was man-made in a lab. And if you would have said that 3-4 years ago, you would have been called a conspiracy theorist. It's crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
Absolutely.
It
Yeah.
was 100% man-made, and it was released way too early. It was made for population control, and they didn't succeed. Obviously, I mean, they killed a lot of people, but they didn't kill.
Do you know that you need to be vaccinated to get an American citizenship as an immigrant?
Insane. That's the reason I went to community college straight out of high school. I was not getting experimented vaccine.
Wow.
Yeah, they would not allow me to go. I had full ride to Ohio University. I had 80% to Ohio State. I had 95% to Cincinnati, but they all required the COVID vaccine. So I went to community college for 2 years.
Do you mind my asking, did you ever get it?
Nope. I refuse to get a vaccine that's only been out for a certain number of years. I'm not anti-vax. I will get any vaccine that's been tested, that has went through testing, whatever went out, been out for so many years. But the first of its kind, an mRNA vaccine that is going to change the fibers in your body, I'm not doing that. That is Trump's biggest failure as presidency. And I say that as a conservative. This is his biggest fucking failure as presidency was Operation Warp Speed. Because he didn't weaponize it, but the people in charge weaponized it. But he should have never rushed it. It was absolutely terrible. Now, if you want it, you should be able to get it all you want. You should be able to get all the boosters you want, all the vaccines you want. It should be readily available for you, but it should not be forced on you.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of social pressure. I do want to get back to basketball, but just as final point on this, I, was part of a think tank. It was 92 people. A lot of them, most of them, way more educated than me. Some of them were holding like 3 degrees in like biochemistry and medicine, and they studied vaccines. There were 8 people who had devoted their whole lives to vaccines. And so we did a straw poll, like when the vaccine came out, how many people are taking it? Most people didn't take it.
The people who made it didn't take it. That was the most telling sign to me.
Yeah, I mean, the people who were researching it on our side didn't want to take it either. So that's when I made a decision, and I told my girlfriend as well, like, we're not doing it. So yeah, it was tough. It was very, very tough to try and explain to people why you're making a decision like that. But I read about World War II Germany when I was very young, and my only question walking into that was, how did so many people make such a bad decision? How did so many people abandon their moral conscience and, ability to just think for themselves and get so roped up in the groupthink? And groupthink has just been a fascination in my life. I mean, even when we're talking about basketball, like we can get so easily caught up in thinking this player is terrible because everyone's saying they're terrible. Why would everybody be wrong? And so it's like the groupthink thing has always been, for me, it's like, okay, I need independent facts, I need silence, and I need to think for myself. And every decision has to be given that level. Now, it's very dangerous, I think, because when medical professionals who have spent their whole lives are telling you something and you are Googling conspiracy theories on Alex Jones' podcast about why these things are wrong, it can lead to a very dangerous world in which I do think that it sets a very dangerous precedent. But at the same time, yeah, I think you were right. I think I was right. I think the people who abstained were right. So it's like broken clocks are right. Like the vast majority of vaccines are helpful. The vast majority of vaccines are helpful. What is not helpful is the label, anti-vaxxer, anti-country. These labels do not help anybody, right? Race, even standing up for an Asian person being called a race traitor, that was not helpful. That was not helpful at all. Yeah.
Exactly. 100%. Respect. I mean, hey, you want to get it? You should be free to get it as much as you want. It should be free and readily available for you. If you don't want to get it, you shouldn't be punished for it. That's how I feel. We live in a free country. At least I live in a free country. I think that's the way it should be. And I mean, I feel the same way across the board when we talk about abortion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. I do want to say though that like I don't know how many people the vaccine did save, but my suggestion to anybody at the time, that anyone who asked me, because they knew that I had talked to this, I had talked to people, like, I'm not even trying to gas it up or anything, but the people that I was talking to at the national policy level, I was more plugged into this situation than I've been plugged into any situation ever of human consequence ever. Like, I got a chance to talk to doctors in Toronto, but also in Wuhan. I was very plugged into this situation. I devoted my whole life to this. You could ask my girlfriend. She's like literally day, night, day, night, day, night, day, night. Like I devoted 18 hours a day for 3 months to this.
Mm-hmm.
And my view on it was if I was 50, I would have taken it. And because I'm not, I'm not. That was my view, because I do think that there was there again, to anybody who's out there saying like, oh, the vaccine did nothing. No, I think the vaccine did something, and it was positive for people who were immunocompromised and at high risk. The truth, however, is that for a young, healthy person, the odds of having disastrous complications on one side and then potential long-term effects on the other side, it did not make sense mathematically for me to take it. And that's where I was. Yeah.
100%.
Anyways,
100%.
to everyone attacking each other in the chat, please don't do that. Like, let's not, like, people have a right to have an opinion about this stuff.
Exactly.
I don't like to bring politics into basketball because people like to follow basketball to get away from politics. And obviously when somebody says I didn't take a vaccine and I'm conservative, a lot of people get like very upset, because I think that's kind of the world we're in right now. But I think that it's very, very important to have conversations
For sure.
on both sides that end in a respectful place.
What a beautiful world we live in, where we're beautiful two countries we live in, where we're able to talk about this stuff without the government coming to our house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Telling us, shut up. So it's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. And on Jakob Poeltl playing aggressive, Jakob Poeltl fits into this team perfectly. I think he fits like a glove. I know he is a non-shooter, but I think his ball IQ, I think the way that he can be, you 1 through 5 can pass. If your worst passer on the court is Grady Dick, you're in a good spot, right? He makes everything work. Like with Jakob out of the lineup versus Jakob in the lineup, when he was hurt at the beginning, or maybe it was like 10, 15 games, and when he missed 3 or 4 games, like it's just such night and day. It's such night and day. I don't know if his extension price is going to be worth it though, necessarily. Like that's something now we have to start thinking about. Is it worth to re-up him for $21-22 million a year? Or would somebody even be willing to pay that? But who knows? But I think right now he fits. I don't think there's a reason to trade him.
What do you think about the Dallas Mavericks being desperately in need of a center, with potentially Derek Lively out for what feels like 3 months, them slipping in the standings every single day? They're slipping. I believe they won tonight, if I'm not mistaken. Did the Mavericks win tonight? The Mavericks smoked the Wizards by 22 points. But apart from like beating the Wizards, which, I mean, everyone's beating the Wizards right now. The Wizards are like a 2-half sale at the big and tall store. Like everybody wants a piece. Like, okay, like the Dallas Mavericks cannot sustain their place in the playoffs right now, given how they're playing and the fact that Daniel Gafford is the last man remaining. I don't know. Like, I mean, selfishly,
does Jakob?
Yeah, you want to keep Jakob, you want to keep Chris Boucher, but selflessly, do you not want them to play good basketball for a winning team and have a chance to compete for a championship?
I think Boucher would rather be on a 500 or below Raptors team, to be honest with you. I think the dude just bleeds Canada, right? I think he bleeds. He has a ring, right? And if he could stay here and make the same money he would on a team that's in perennial contention, I think he'd choose staying here if the money was the same. Right now, obviously, if they're offering more, go get your money, dude. Go get your money. But I think the dude literally just lives, breathes, and dies Canada.
Boucher?
Yeah, Boucher. And Jakob, I 100% agree with you. I want to see I want to see Jakob on a contender, but I think that could be the Raptors next year, to be honest with you. I mean, if you tell me a year from now that this team has 28 wins at this point, I'm not shocked. You know what I mean? You tell me a year from now this team's top 4 in the East, I'm not shocked. I don't know how much he moves the needle though on the Mavericks. Right. With Kyrie and Luka out, right? Like that's the thing. Like, would the Mavericks be willing to give up, I don't know, a 2026 lottery protected first and 2 seconds and then salary filler for Jakob Poeltl? Like, does that really move the needle for them? I don't know.
I mean, I don't think Jakob Poeltl is the type of rim running big that they would really want. I'm thinking they would look at more of the archetype of Kelly and Boucher, and it also fits in closer to the Maxi Kleber number, right? Like, because and I mean, what would the Raptors want? I think they would want pick compensation. Now, earlier we had a caller, Elliott, and shout outs to Elliott, great caller. It was very, very complimentary, but he mentioned boatload of picks. I don't know about boatload of picks though. I'll be honest. Like, I don't think these guys are going for boatloads of picks. I think Kelly could give you like maybe a couple seconds. Maybe Bruce could come over a couple seconds. They're serviceable because they're expiring. Well, Kelly and Boucher are more serviceable because they're expiring. You eat contract, they get better player. You take the unhealthy player. What are you really saying to your team? That we value 2 seconds over your teammate? I think that could really like tear it down. I have no idea. Like, again, internally, it feels like the Raptors have turned a corner. Defensively, offensively, it feels like this is a team that is playing together. And I don't know, man. Like, when I look at that core that initially went for We the North, right? The first one, we're talking Kyle, DeMar, Gravis, Terrence Ross, Amir Johnson, Jonas Valanciunas. When I look at the talent on that team, I look at the talent on this team. I'm like, I think the talent on this team is greater than that talent.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Kyle Lowry is still on the team.
Well, yeah, I mean, depending on how you feel about Kyle Lowry at the time, I mean, what we feel about Kyle Lowry later, 2015, 2016, 2017, like
2009, Kyle Lowry is currently on the Raptors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Shead is amazing. When IQ comes back, I want him to keep the same amount of minutes. I get it. I like Davion a lot. I really, really like Davion. I love his intensity. I love how bought in he is. I love how yes sir, no sir he is. Yes coach, no coach. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
He is an absolute specimen of a human being and a player. But man, Shead is an absolute beaut. He sees things where, like, I feel like from TV, you kind of get the overview of the court. Like, we can see more than the ball handler can see. And when he's making me be like, what the hell are you doing? Oh shit. Okay, never mind then. I see what you're seeing there. I see what you're doing, right? Like, it's like
Shead?
Yeah, like the vision for Shead is just absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. It's very, like, there's this Twitter account, and they do like silhouettes of NBA players. Like, who does this remind you of? Who does that remind you of? I would like to see Shead's silhouette when he plays, because I guarantee you, like, the way he passes, like his bounce passes, looks just like Kyle Lowry. It is literally the same thing. Like the one in between the two defenders tonight, absolutely like oh my
I mean,
God.
his jump shot has sort of fallen off a cliff lately, but yes, there was a stretch of time where I would say, look, I've been comparing him to Kyle Lowry since preseason.
And I got that from you. So thank you for putting me on.
My pleasure, because I'm trying to get ahead of the Fred VanVleet comparisons. I just want to be clear, because I love Jamal Shead, and I'm not a big Fred VanVleet fan. So I'm just like, you know what? I just don't want one of my favorite young players being compared to Fred VanVleet. I just would prefer, and I know he's already close to Fred. He reached out to Fred, etc. I'm like, no, Kyle. And it's not just that. It's the Fred and Kyle comparisons drove me insane too, because Kyle is so unique. He's a little ping pong, right? He's surprisingly athletic. He's very shifty. He's very strong, and he's a great passer. None of those things, apart from the very strong, should be applied to Fred VanVleet. Fred is a 6-foot guard who's strong. Congratulations. Kyle is athletic as hell. I mean,
I think the mentality on the court is where the comparison came from, but I 100% agree with you. I mean, physical traits is nothing alike. I mean, same thing with Shead. I think Shead, Lowry, and VanVleet, mentality wise on the court, are all cut from the same cloth. But I mean, like, if you say Shead looks like Fred, you don't watch basketball. You don't watch ball. Like, he is literally 2014 Kyle Lowry before he exploded. Give Shead 4 years, and he's averaging 13 points a game.
Kyle Lowry? I don't think so. I think he's more like 2009 Kyle Lowry.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. But I mean, like, just the way that he operates, the way that he looks now. But yeah, 100%. I give it 4 years. Shed's averaging 13 points a game.
Medved saying Julius Randle plus Nickeil Alexander-Walker for Brown, Abaji, and Davion.
Hell no.
Ugh. Julius Randle.
Hell no.
So you're taking on a very big problem to get Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I don't know who you think Nickeil Alexander-Walker is. I mean, he's a good player. But for Brown, I mean, do I prefer Nickeil over Abaji?
Hell no.
It's close. It's really close. But Davion plus Brown for Julius Randle? I don't think so.
How many pick swaps they throwing in?
Yeah, they should throw in like 2 pick swaps for that.
Give me that 2029 and 2031 pick
Yeah,
swap.
I guess you know what the thing is, Method. I just don't value Julius Randle at all. I'm a certified Julius. I'm a card carrying certified Julius Randle hater. Don't like him at all.
Scottie and RJ would beat the shit out of Julius Randle after every single game. Like they would scrap in the
Beat
locker.
the shit out of him. RJ's like, yo, I thought I left you behind. Ah, shit, you're here again. Oh my god, no, that would be terrible. That would be
It would be terrible. I mean, Scottie's getting vocal in that locker room now. Shoot, I love it. I love to hear it.
Yeah. Oak Tree saying big congrats on 12K. My wife just said she remembers when you were at 2K. Dude, I remember when I was at 2. I'm not even kidding. I remember when I was at 2. I got like my first 4 subscribers. I was feeling myself real hard. I was like, I told my girlfriend, I'm like, yo, I can't believe it. I got my first 10 subscribers. I was so excited. And you know what the crazy thing is? I'm still excited. Every single time there's like new subscribers, I'm very, very happy because I know this is not for everybody. I know I'm doing this my way. I know I'm doing this completely off the cuff. I know that I'm doing this with sometimes very little prep. And I'm doing this straight from the heart. And I'm never holding punches back. And I'm never, going to lie. So I'm like, man, this works. You know what I mean? Like part of the success of Pendance for me and PENSARE Basketball has been that I can't believe this works in 2025. I can't believe that being yourself and doing what you believe in works because, contrary to popular belief, because everyone just tells you have to become some sort of corporate megaphone shill, super politically correct about everything. And you have to play nice and can't say anything negative about anything. And you got to go with the tom-toms and go with the popular opinion on everything. And it's like when you're bucking the trend and you're doing well, you know what I mean? It's like the dominant trend in movies right now is what? Like those big blockbusters, right? People don't have an appetite for cinema. So the fact that Pendance exists and does well every year is like, that's a testament to, an assertion of values. So yeah, that's why I'm excited about this channel growing. It's not because I personally just love the number 12,000 or 13,000 or somehow inherently value $50 or $100. It's not about the money. It's not about the numbers. It's really most importantly about the fact that as our influence grows, I think our ability to support the players grows. You know
what this channel reminds me of?
Larry David.
the early days of the Pat McAfee show. You ever heard of the Pat McAfee show?
I have heard of it. Yeah.
Okay. It reminds me of the early days of the Pat McAfee show before he got the ESPN gig, when they were just strictly like Zoom calls pretty much on like stream to YouTube. That's literally what this reminds me of. It is guys who are going against the grain, who are just saying whatever the hell they want, whenever the hell they want, talking about whatever the hell they want, whenever the hell they want. It is beautiful. It's such a breath of fresh air. And I mean, that's why Pat McAfee is the highest paid personality at ESPN right now. And he's still dropping F-bombs on ESPN, dropping S-bombs on ESPN. Like he's still being him. You know what I mean? So I think you're going to get a break. Honestly, I think you're going to get a huge break. And when you get that break, it's going to be life-changing money, and you're still going to be able to do this now. You are not going to have to succumb to the pressure of the media. You are going to be the media, which is going to be huge for Toronto basketball because we need somebody, just from what I see, they need somebody who's going to go against all these hockey nerds, somebody who's going to go against the Lou Wills of the world, somebody who's going to tell the truth.
Well, I've never watched Pat McAfee, ever. I've watched Jason Whitlock. I've watched Stephen A. Smith. I'm not particularly a huge fan of anything that they do over at ESPN, but I'm sure if the concept of life-changing money, though, my girlfriend and I were talking about money just the other day, and for me, I know I shouldn't say this, but I've never really been about that. My life, for a very early part of my life was dictated by money that we didn't have, and it was constantly a feeling of, okay, you don't have shoes because we don't have money. You don't have this because you don't have money. Your pants don't fit because you don't have money. Your shoes are too tight because you don't have money. You can't go to the basketball camp because you don't have money. And that consistently built up money as this thing to aim at because everything bad was happening because we didn't have enough. And at some point, I started to chase it so hard. I was working, 30 hours, 40 hours a week during high school. I had a part-time job when I was 12, 13 years old, making $5 an hour. And, it just like, it seemed to solve a lot of problems, you know? Like the girl doesn't like you because your clothes aren't as cool as the other guy, but then now you have money, you can buy the clothes, and you know, it's a dangerous precedent to sort of set for your own mind that money equals value. You know, I think freedom equals value, right?
I think
Freedom.
I think where I was getting at that is like being able to have the opportunity to change people's lives, right? Like there's a lot of talk shows, you know, whether it's ESPN, Sportsnet, whatever, right? Radio stations, whatever, whatnot, to where they get that money and they hermit, right? They turtle, they keep it for themselves. To where I think the comparison comes from a Pat McAfee is the dude gave away what 3.5 million this season for college football just to kids for scholarship money. I see that out of you. You know what I mean? Like if you had $10 million spawned in your pocket right now, you seem like the type of guy that give $1 million away to charity that you believe in.
I think
Just that type of
I
dude.
think I would give 9 million away to charity. Yeah.
Right,
I
exactly.
mean, yeah. No, I believe that too. And you know, the more you have, the more you can give. Like to me,
Mhm.
the things that I have done well in my life have always been from a place of service.
Mhm.
And you know, the other day I was listening to this Jack Armstrong interview, and he said Scottie is a servant. Like he is a servant to his teammates, he's a servant to his coaches,
Mhm.
he's a servant to the fans. Like he is a person who just wants to give, and he is that for his family as well. He's that to his dogs, he's that to his friends, he's that to his trainer. He's always caring about other people. So to me, like the worst outcomes in my life came from selfish, you know, if I wanted to do something selfish or if
Mhm.
I wanted to, but the best things in my life have always been from a place of support. So, you know, when we started Pendance, it was to support filmmakers. It was because I
Mhm.
had a really bad experience at a film festival down in Florida and a couple bad film festivals here in Toronto. And I was like, you know what? I got to do more for people like me. You know, I got to do more for filmmakers who are in this boat that spend money to go to festivals. I want to give them an experience. You know, I want to, you know, and so now when filmmakers come here, they always say, yeah, like, I mean, think about it this way. When we started Pendance in, you know, 2017, they told us no sensible person in the world should start a film festival in Canada in the winter because no one will ever come. No one would come to Toronto in the winter. That's why all the festivals are in the fall. That's why all the festivals are in the summer, because no one would ever come. And I'm like, this attitude must be destroyed in
Mhm.
Toronto. We have winter. Why shouldn't other people come experience our winter too? I hate this. I mean, first of all, I grew up in countries where snow was normal. Like I grew up in, you know, the United States. You know, we had snow in Buffalo, New York, New Jersey. We always had snow. We have snow in Serbia. So to me, snow is normal. I'm not scared of the cold. I walk around in shorts, -15. I don't care. So to me, I was like, I want to share my love for the cold with other people. And they said no one would come. And then everybody came. Hundreds of people have come from all
Yeah.
over. People have come from Barbados, Miami, LA. I mean, we got 6 filmmakers flying in from LA this year. They're going to leave, you know, presumably a warmer climate to come here. And it's just like, you know, it's a proof of concept, but it is also philosophically driven by something that is of service. It is of service to the city that I now call home. You know,
Yep.
it's you know, because all these people like you're normalizing something, you know, like all these people, they have thousands and thousands of followers. They come to Toronto, they post a picture with the snow. They're like, I'm having a great time. And then suddenly people are like, yeah, maybe Canada does not need to be avoided like a plague when it's cold. You know, when we moved to Canada, I had no idea how cold Canada was, but I thought it was all igloos. I
Dude,
didn't care.
Columbus, Ohio, where I'm at, is a 45-minute flight to Canada. And I mean, it was like 5 degrees here last week. So maybe not as cold as Canada gets, but like, man, it's cold here too. So
Ohio can be really cold. Boston can be really cold.
I've never
Minnesota's
got the
super
stigma.
cold.
I've never got the stigma of like superstars will be like, oh yeah, I'll play in Indiana, I'll play in, you know, Ohio, I'll play in Boston, I'll play in New York. But Canada, Toronto, hell no. It's like that's really not that far fetched.
I mean, shit, even the Cooper Flag thing. Cooper's from Maine.
Yeah.
Go Google Maine on a
Yeah.
map and tell me how north it is, right? So yeah,
I think Maine might be more north than Canada or than Canada, the Toronto.
I think it's very, very close. Yeah, latitudinally, it's very, very close. But yes, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get Cooper Flag now. Most likely, you know, the Cooper Flag dream is dying slowly. But I don't know. I think that it's a, you know, what you say is true. Like what? Sorry, what I was saying was basically
Yeah.
things done from service are done with heart for me. and things
100%.
done from service have been done well. You know, the Tesla Tutors was all about the kids. The Pendance Film Festival was about the filmmakers. And I feel like when you, I don't know about other people or about you, but like I feel like when you start doing things from the place of like, I want to make money, so I want to be famous, I want to, you know, no. I started Pensare Basketball to support this team.
Yep.
I did not start it to become a minor celebrity. I did not start it to get some big deal. I didn't start to make money. I didn't even know this could make money. No idea. Didn't really
Yep.
think about it too much. I didn't think it could make thousands of dollars a month. I never thought about that. I thought I thought maybe, you know, Pensare Basketball could make a few $100. And now, you know, between the panel and, you know, Player's Choice and this, like that's like an income. You
Yeah.
know, it's getting there, like between all the super chats and everything. Like, yeah, it's like sustainably, it's like an actual income.
Yeah, it's like one of
Huge.
my favorite quotes ever, and I apply this to every facet of life is ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country, right?
A JFK quote. Okay.
JFK, beautiful, right? Apply it to everything. Like, okay, well, this can get me money. This can get me this. This can get me that. Well, what can you do for that? Right? Like, right now I work in consulting and advising. And I mean, with my clients, it's like, yeah, like they pay me money. Yeah, that's nice. But what am I doing for them? What can I give for them? Right? Because what I can give for them is what I'm going to get out of this. Right? Because guess what? Then I get referrals. I've made like $5,000 in the past 2 months just off of referrals that I've got from people. You know what I mean? Because I've done a good job, because I've lived that quote, you know? So I think if a lot of people were a lot less selfish in this world, and that basketball, life, anything, right? Politics, whatever, whatnot, right? If we're a lot less selfish and you think like, what can I do for other people? Guess what? On the back end, you're gonna get more out of that, instead of saying, what can I take for me? What can I do for just me? Because those are the people.
I think most people would realize very quickly that the most joyous thing that you can do in your life is actually to do something good for somebody else. Almost always. Like I find, and that's why it's almost like there's no such thing as a selfless good deed, right? For others, because it's almost like every time you're doing something positive, when you forgive somebody else, you're actually doing yourself a favor. But I would say, like, when you help somebody who has harmed you, who really benefits from that? You benefit from that. You building up a sort of even when you choose to politely disagree with someone who's being very hostile towards you, you win in that exchange. If there's winners and losers here, the person who is screaming and calling people names is almost always losing. And I say this as someone who has screamed and called people's names. I lost every time I did that, right? The goodness is coming from sticking to your morals, to your integrity, and by, I don't want to say turning the other cheek, and you know, but like just sticking true to what you value, right? It's important. Anyways, man, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think with more than one loss before the trade deadline, I would hate to see Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk on this team after it. But if you only lose one game leading up to the trade deadline, I could stomach it, because I would understand the play and push at that point. But I don't see why you would want to keep Brown and Olynyk around past that. If you lose two or more.
Right. But if you beat Washington and you beat Chicago, are all bets off?
If you beat Washington, you beat Chicago, I mean, then you have to beat one of Memphis or New York. You have to take one of those games for it to be a real possibility, right? Because here's the way I look at it: like you have to win 90% of the games you're supposed to win, and then 40% of the games that you're not supposed to win to even pretty much have a shot at this point, right? And that's giving yourself leeway. So I mean,
those games against Chicago and Philly count for double, because those are the teams you directly have to pass, right?
Right.
I will say this though, like, a lot of podcasters are rooting for the Raptors to push for a play-in push because it's good for their numbers. I know that. They've always been pushing for winning. That's why they wanted Scottie traded for Kevin Durant, because they care about the immediate gratification. For me personally, it's not about that at all. Like, I could care less if we're doing a live, you know, in April and the dog days of the season and there's nothing to play for, and we have 130 live viewers and, you know, no super chats all month. That is not like what's moving me at all. I know financially for everybody, a play-in push is immediate revenue. It's revenue for MLSE. It's revenue for, you know, it's probably credibility for Masai Ujiri. It's probably positive for the end of year voting stuff for Scottie Barnes All-NBA. So there's a lot of selfish reasons to root for winning. There's really one selfless reason to root for winning, which is, you want hard work to be rewarded. This is a team that is together. They play hard. They play for each other. They play the right way. Why would you want to disincentivize that? It just seems wrong morally. Business-wise, of course, tanking has value too. But yeah. Anyways.
I've always been a fan of whatever they go out there and do, they go out there and do. But I think at this point, when push comes to shove, if Brown and Olynyk are still on this team and you lose 2 or more games over the next week, like, it's going to be hard to justify some stuff.
I think sustainably you can now go to a team and really just say, no, we're good. And you can start putting out some flyers. I mean, like, if you were 8-32, right, as opposed to 14-32, there's a big difference between those two outcomes. Number one, at 8-32, if you can't even rumor mill that we're looking to compete, you can't even do that. People will call your bluff so fast. But on this type of win streak, turning this type of corner with Scottie Barnes kind of playing the best basketball of his life, according to some people, you could actually go and start putting out a rumor that the Raptors are actually shopping for upgrades. They're dangling picks. And now people might look at Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk that they thought they were just going to get them on the buyout market. They could look at them completely differently now.
100%.
They could look at them as like, oh shit, those are like pieces on like winning team now. And I mean, of course, the Raptors are not a winning team. They're a freaking losing team. They're, significantly below 500. They're still a losing team. But there's something weird that happens when you string together a positive string of games, which is people really do start to believe that you're turning a corner. It's totally different if you had flipped it around. Like, let's say, for instance, the Raptors had won 7 of 8 to start the season and then lost like 40 straight or something like that. That would be a completely different situation. But here, you're kind of like, we're a young team turning a corner. We're making a serious play-in push. We need reinforcements. We're not looking to trade Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown right now. We're not looking to trade Jakob Poeltl. Now people might actually, who want those players, actually have to pony up a fair price. Because last year with OG and Pascal, everyone knew you didn't want to pay them, and that's why you got less. I believe you got less for those guys. I'm perfectly fine with what you got for them. I'm just saying, if you want to negotiate from a place of strength, you need to be able to say no. And you can't say no when you are desperate.
No, 100% agree. I appreciate that perspective a lot. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
100%.
So I think the Raptors are just in a much better position right now to negotiate, right? So, yeah, the tank is in a worse position, but the actual assets and your negotiating position is much better. Yeah. Anyways, Layne, thanks a lot for calling in, man. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. You have a great night, man.
Good night. Chris Boucher.
They wanted you to keep shooting, and I'm almost surprised you needed the encouragement based on how you've been shooting, the last basically all season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I missed the first one. I missed the second one. We were both really open. But like obviously it feels good when coach is saying like, to shoot the next one and to not be afraid about it. I think that always helps. Obviously really confident in my shot right now, but it definitely helps when your coach tells you to keep shooting it.
How much pride are you and Bruce and the other guys, Jamal, taking right now, and how much you're changing games and affecting games in this little streak you're having?
I mean, I think we talk about it all the time. We just want to be able to come in a game and change the game. Obviously, the starters are going to start it, and we want to be able to, sustain either the lead or get back the lead or either make it a better one. So I think we're doing a really good job at that. Obviously, Jamal and Bruce are really, finding ways to be disruptive, and they're passing the ball. The ball's moving a lot. And, I mean, we're doing that without Kelly, too. So, obviously, when Kelly gets back, it's another player that, could help us. So I think he's doing a really good job right now to just find what we miss in games and be able to put it together.
You were drawing some pretty wild closeouts on some of those shots, real flybys.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed as your hot streak keeps going, that teams are defending you differently?
I mean, I hear hot shooter all the time. So, I mean, that's a first for me. I think that either they hear a hot shooter coming from the bench or, they don't help as much. I think when I see the game now, it's like whoever's guarding me is not, being the biggest goal or whatever, which they usually just help off the paint. So I think it helps with Scottie. I think it helps with Yak. They were able to play inside and, taking one man out. I think that really helps. And I'm still, trying to figure ways to, win the back cut, because obviously now they probably going to think I'm going to stay corner. So I'm trying to figure out ways to be more effective on that. But, yeah, it's definitely a different position for me to be in, but it definitely feels good.
Are you feeling like pride every time you hear hot shooter?
I mean, I wanted them to say that for the longest time. It's just that the shot was not going in. So, I think this summer we've been working extremely hard on holding the shot and, taking the one with confidence, but also making sure that it's the right one.
I just want to say that I think I read people pretty well. I've never met Chris Boucher in my entire life, but I just want to say that I'm really, really happy for this dude. Like, I've talked a lot of smack about, how the Raptors need to move off of him, his basketball IQ, his questionable shot selection, all that stuff. It's never for a lack of trying. Dude always wants to win. He always wants to support his teammates. He doesn't have a selfish bone in his body. I don't feel like, whether you think his play style has been selfish at times, his shot selection could be a little bit dicey, questionable, I would never, ever associate Chris Boucher with bad guy. You know what I mean? Like, just the very fact that Scottie vibes with him and vibed with him all summer, just to me tells me that's exactly who you are. I don't need a bigger litmus test than Scottie wanted to hang out with you all summer. Like, that to me is like the ultimate litmus test, because Scottie does not suffer fools. He does not want to surround himself around, people who are vibing negative. I think I've followed Chris for a while now. His entire interaction, we've interacted a couple times on X, never positive, because it's always me calling him out for something. But military man saying, I met Boucher, he signed my jersey, I told him he's the best big in the league, and he said that's the goal. Yeah, I mean, exactly. He's a hard worker. He's clearly figured out something under Darko here, and from Vince Carter, with the follow through and all that stuff. So I hope it clicks for him, man. But there's a lot to be said about contract year bumps, right? With Chris, I mean, we can look at the last time he was in a contract year and just actually take a look. I apologize for interrupting his interview, because we got to also go to Jakob Poeltl after. But I just want to quickly just see something here in terms of Chris Boucher's contract year. The last time, I believe he played extremely well, right? But it was a very different type of playing well. Hang on one second. So Chris, the last time he was in a contract year was 22-23. If I recall correctly. Yeah, he signed a 3-year deal. This is year 1, 2, 3. Okay. So Chris is expiring this year, which means actually it was 21-22, right? Yeah, he signed a 3-year deal. Okay, so to give you the advanced stats on that, the last time Chris Boucher was in a contract year, he had a down year in terms of box plus minus, actually. Very down year. He played 80 games, started 9. He played a career high in minutes that year because, as you recall, the Raptors were, but the Raptors were good the year. Like 21-22 was the year they made the playoffs. That's the year that they signed him to that deal. And I would argue, from a box plus minus perspective, it was a massive fall off over the previous 3 years. This year, however, he's been way better than he was that year. Way better. His shooting percentage, I don't know if y'all realize, this is the second highest shooting percentage, true shooting percentage of Chris's career. This is the lowest rebound rate of his career. So that's worth noting as well. This is the second, third highest, since he's become a main rotation player, this is the highest usage of his career. And in terms of win shares per 48, this is right up there with his contract year. And he's on a losing team. So I think like Chris is a solid 8-minute per game type of guy. Like Chris plus, yeah. So recruiter dude, hang tight. I don't know if you have time. Just DM me if you need to get on right now, because you're a channel OG. If you don't have a lot of time to let the Chris Boucher interview and the Jakob Poeltl interview run out, I'm just gonna let Chris Boucher talk, and then you let me know if you got a little bit of time to hang around, because I do want to hear what you got to say. So just private message me on the side if you're like, hey, Rob, I got to be, I only got 10 minutes or et cetera. So I'll let you on.
Spoke about having 5 guys giving effort on defense at all times. Has that been the key to the defensive turnaround, just the effort, or is there something else?
I mean, effort definitely starts there, but I think it's, the will. I think we are, whoever's in front of us, I think everybody's taking pride of guarding them. And, we playing together too, the X out, the help in, if, there's a switch and somebody's smaller, kind of to get him out. I think we're moving on the string, and that's really what's happening right now.
Félicitations Chris. 6 victoires en 7 matchs. À quoi attribues-tu le succès de l'équipe ces derniers jours?
La défense, puis je pense que juste le fait qu'on est resté ensemble durant l'année, je pense que quand on perdait beaucoup de games et tout, on est resté ensemble sachant que ça va marcher à un moment donné, on n'a pas arrêté. Puis je pense que ça nous aide en ce moment. Dans les hauts et dans les bas, je pense qu'on est resté ensemble. Puis tu peux le voir maintenant quand on joue. L'énergie est quand même le même. On commence à savoir qui peut faire quoi et où est-ce qu'on devrait mettre certains joueurs pour faciliter la situation.
Tu as raté tes premiers tirs en premier quart-temps, mais à la fin du match, tu as retrouvé l'adresse. Quand tu rates ces tirs-là, qu'est-ce que tu te dis dans ta tête? Est-ce que tu te dis ça va venir?
Non, ils ont été chanceux. C'est ça, je me dis, ils ont été chanceux. Le premier, c'était in and out. Je pensais que ça allait rentrer. Le deuxième, j'aurais dû prendre plus de temps. Je pensais qu'il était derrière moi. Mais après ça, je me suis dit, OK, ben là, maintenant, je vais juste les shooter, puis je ne vais pas bouger. Puis, c'est ça le résultat.
Recruiter Jude, you got 4 minutes for Jakob Poeltl to speak?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Not mine. Gotta give it back.
Yeah, Darko's just calling you the great connector to the team. What does that mean to you?
It means a lot. Like, I think a big part of our offense is built on that system where we play through the bigs, play through elbows. I'm trying to connect, like you said, our teammates, like trying to make stuff happen on the court. So yeah, it's a lot of fun when it's working well.
He was talking also on the defensive end, though, that you keep everybody tied together. Is that just your experience, you think, or feel familiar with these guys?
I mean, I'd say it's a mixture of like experience, ability to like read the game, knowing what's coming, like knowing your opponents, and I'm usually in the position to be that guy, like the last line of defense, see everybody, can talk to everybody, kind of, because you have like principles, you have like a game plan, but sometimes that stuff just goes out the window and you have to make something up on the fly. And in those situations, it's important to have the right communication, get everybody on the same page.
Darko was making Scottie's case to be an all-NBA defender before the game. You've been with him for quite some time now. Is this the best that you've seen him defensively? And what changes do you think he's made on that? Or where do you see him, I guess, excelling and taking the next step on that?
I mean, that's tough to say. Like he was really good on defense in the past. He's really good this year as well. Really taking on that role in some of these games where he's doing everything on offense and on defense for us. It's actually really impressive to watch. But I think just his ability, like I said earlier, like to read the game, to know what the right play is in the right moment. Sometimes you just gotta, make something happen out of nowhere. But like I said, he's been really good on the ball and off the ball this season. So impressive. Yeah, I mean, you guys had another really good team defensive game, but Zion Williamson, had a pretty good game himself. Maybe just the challenge of trying to keep that guy out of the paint. Well, yeah, he's really tough to guard. We were talking about it in the locker room. It's that mixture of like explosiveness and also like he's almost slippery. Like you're trying to body him up and then he just like kind of slides past you, and with that explosive jump and first step, like it's really difficult to kind of contain him, and you almost need a couple of guys, somebody to jump with him, and then like a second jumper to either grab the rebound or contest the shot. But yeah, I think we did a better job there at the end of the game. We kind of figured it out, how to stop him a little better. But yeah, he's
He's a very good player.
Yeah, on the note of you kind of being the connector, there's a lot of connectivity that the guys expressed throughout the season about how the off-season training went. Obviously, there was a patch of a lot of injuries that happened early on, but do you feel like you guys have kind of gotten back to that level of connectivity? From your perspective, what are you seeing?
I don't know. It's tough to say. I don't think the way we play basketball has necessarily changed a bunch. Like, it's just like right now we're having a good run. We're playing well on defense, and it's making our offense look better as well. So I think, yes, there's like a little bit of that different edge that we're having right now in these last couple of games, but at the end of the day, I don't want to get too high or too low on us. Like, right now things are going well, but there's still things we need to clean up. There's still stretches in the game where I felt like we got a little bit stagnant, where we didn't really play the way we want to play on offense as well. So yeah, there's always more stuff to work on, and hopefully we'll get better and better.
You feel like the chemistry has just overall also just gotten better too?
I mean, I think naturally, yeah, just from like having everybody on the court playing together. Just the more minutes we're going to play to get on the court together, the better it's going to get. But like I said, I wasn't unhappy with how things were going, like as far as like our teamwork was early on in the season. So yeah, hopefully we can just keep rising.
How was Davion's defense at the point of attack impacted you guys' scheme in this recent stretch?
I mean, he's kind of that first line of defense for us. Like, he's really aggressive on the ball. He can make stuff happen on his own a lot of times. Like, he's going to blow up screens. He's going to draw offensive fouls there. Really a guy that can sit down and guard like their best players. I think, yeah, like there's a lot of pieces to our defense, and he's definitely one of the main ones, and hopefully he can keep being that guy for us.
Okay, let's get Recruiter Dude on. Recruiter Dude, what's up?
Yeah, I won't be on long, I promise. I know everyone wants to go to bed. I'm actually driving home from the game, and I just wanted to offer a couple of interesting observations that I had. I was sitting behind the basket when Pelicans are attacking us in the first half, and a couple of interesting things that I noticed. One was Grady's shot is not broken. I know a lot of people are talking crap online, specifically on Real GM, saying that his shot is kind of messed up and they're not convinced watching him on TV. I did watch him perpendicular. I was directly adjacent from him, and he was able to actually float right, kind of like Reggie Miller, and pull a very good shot, and he made it. I don't know if you remember that. I think it was in the second quarter, if I believe.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, I'm convinced he's a natural shooter who operates well in tight spaces. It's more of a confidence thing with him. That was one of the big observations that I had. Another one was Scottie in the second half. This is one of those things that you had to watch live. Like, watching Zion actively getting discouraged and not quitting on himself, but he was basically in Scottie's house. Like, there were moments where he didn't know what to do. He was sort of like grasping at straws, and it was fueling our defense. It was almost like Scottie was in his head a bit. Now, again, Zion made some good shots towards the end. He was he drew some questionable fouls, and he was still being aggressive. But I'm not saying that he quit, but being at the game, you could tell that he was really, really bothered by Scottie. It was just not a good matchup for Zion. And I realize he's been away for a while, but that was interesting. Another thing that was interesting was being behind the basket, watching RJ with the ball. He does have his blinders on some of the time. He's not actually looking at the corners in the half court. Like, he's in drive mode and his brain shuts off. Again, I don't know if this is an obvious thing on TV, but like in the game, I'm watching him going east-west, but again, behind the basket. And there were some obvious passes that for him were not obvious. So he, like, I don't know if he has natural playmaker instincts. Like, it wasn't conveyed from my vantage point when I was watching him. So that was one interesting thing that I picked up. But just a lot of stuff that you guys already talked about. I just caught the live about 20 minutes ago. Like we're living through some type of Chris Boucher renaissance. His touch, again, I had really close seats. Like, his touch was really graceful. I don't know what he did, what's going on. Like, I don't know how much work he put in a shot, but like his release right now for this time period, and it could be like a brief period in time. Like, I'm not kidding myself. I'm not a big Chris Boucher fan, but his release right now is perfect. Like, everything, his rotation on his shot, I was really close to him, was virtually flawless. From like almost every shot he took from where we were sitting, I'm like, that's going in. And more often than not, it did go in. So yes, you could say it's a hot streak, but I think he's cracked a code on certain spots in the court. Again, I don't have it in front of me. Like, I'm literally driving my car right now, but from where I was sitting, it was he's reached a level of consistency. I don't know how long he can maintain it for, but just from where I was sitting, this is purely subjective. It's a very, very soft release, and it's almost dead eye. Like, I don't know if he can maintain this, but he has to be a hot trade piece right now. I don't know how much you guys have gone over that already. Again, I don't want to beat a dead horse and like bore everyone to death, but just from where I was sitting, it was very convincing. So, he's gonna ride. He's gonna ride this for as long as he can. His enthusiasm, by the way, I wasn't courtside. I was like, I think I was like row 15 behind the basket, but I could see the bench. Like, he's having the time of his life. Everyone is just basically embracing him and this run, and they're riding Chris Boucher right now. Like, everyone, it's not an accident. Like, Scottie's finding him, Shead's finding him, Mitchell's finding him. Like,
Bruce Brown.
It's like they're like, Chris Boucher's open, just let it rip.
Do you remember that game that we had against the Pistons? Do you remember where Cade would just routinely just find Malik Beasley and then boom, hits, and then he'd find hit Tim Hardaway, and people were like, look at how great Cade is. The thing is, like, look at how great some of his players around him are playing. Now, I think what the Raptors have here is either a sample size. It shows the sample size of what you can do with the right pieces. Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Brown, Chris Boucher offer, to me, 3 competent NBA level role players, something the Raptors have not had a lot of over the last 2 years. Jalen McDaniels, all the young players that we've played, Malik Williams, all these players, but when you have competent secondary ball handling via Kelly and Bruce, you have competent shot finishing in Boucher that is maybe an unsustainable percentage, but doing well. And you just have some pieces around that are just grinding and working. Jakobi occasionally, Ochai, Grady, it's just enough pieces to eke out these wins, Now, I'm curious if, based on what you saw tonight, are you for pushing for the play-in?
So I sat down with my friend, and honest to God, this was a last minute thing. I was not planning on going to the game. It was late. He calls me. He goes, "Come, I have tickets. I got them last minute. Do you want to come watch it with me?"
Mhm.
I did not know, hand on heart, that Zion was playing tonight. I did not know that. We actually got there late. They're very good seats. I'm sitting down. I'm like, holy crap, Zion's playing. And Zion wasn't bad. Like, he got 32 points tonight. Like, he was finding efficiency in the floater. He was aggressive. It was Zion, right? And I was so close to him, and like his power and his ability to sort of like instantly change directions. And so we were up, I think, like 15 points, and then it was a combination of Zion and Hawkins and a couple other guys. I'm like, Zion can flip this game. And I know people were watching this, and I don't know how convincing it was, but I'm sure perhaps you and some others might have had an intimation like Pelicans might be able to steal this game, because there was some anxiety in the crowd where I was sitting like, we might actually lose to the Pelicans. Like,
I'm gonna tell you the truth. 2 minutes into this game in the first quarter, I would book it that the Raptors are going to win this game, based on just how Scottie's energy was defensively, like how he was boarding, how he was communicating, how pissed off he was about, misses and makes. I was like, let this dude just find a rhythm. Scottie's like a slow starter sometimes when it comes to, shooting and stuff. I would love to figure out why that is. Personally, if I'm his trainer, if I'm the staff, I'm probably figuring out, like, how can we get Scottie more ready for games so that he's not finding his way, through the second quarter, shooting blanks early on, right? Because there's a lot of star players, they come out and they punch you really hard in the first quarter, then they go away for a bit, and then they finish strong. Yeah, so I don't know. I thought this was the Raptors game to win.
But Rob, though, in fairness, I don't know how obvious it was on TV, but sitting and watching DeJounte Murray was tragic. It was like, he was bad. He was really, really bad. And
color me very surprised, because I was a very, very big DeJounte fan up until 2 years ago. I would have sworn up and down that dude was going to get unlocked somewhere, and he's just been so bad. Yeah.
It was. I felt bad for him, how, like, the mid-range, everything, like, he was shrinking under modest coverage. Well, Mitchell wasn't bad. Poeltl looked like Charles Oakley tonight. Like, DeJounte was clueless. So if he's a modicum of better, this is a closer game. So like he he helped us tonight. But you're dead on about Scottie. Scottie in the second half. Watching these guys live, like I know this is not a great season this year, and like, it's expensive to go to these games, but like, if people who are listening to this, if you can get to a game, like, watching Scottie, who is this 6'9" athletic just monster, who can run the court, pass, shoot, play make. Again, I'm this is an obvious observation, but like, you watch him on TV, when you watch this guy play live, and then how he dogs ball handlers and just drives them insane. It's like, it must be reminiscent to people who watched like great players playing at Rucker Park, like in New York, like, just when you don't care about who's watching, you're just destroying someone and like making them shrink under you. It's just something to behold. Like, that alone is worth the ticket. And I don't even think we played great, honestly. Like, some parts were enjoyable. There were other parts that were actually quite depressing. I mean, it's always a shake of the dice when you got Tony Brothers reffing. I mean, I'll put that aside, but no one's a fan of Tony Brothers. But watching Scottie, it's an art form and just how Zion was in his own. Scottie was in his head.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, it was a pleasure watching Zion. Like I'm not. I know people. He's addicted to eating fast food and he sucks and like he's overrated. No, Zion is still a specimen. I mean, he's an unbelievable player. But Scottie is just. I mean, he's going to live in his head for a while. Like, and I'm not exaggerating. Watching that live was so revealing and just an enjoyable watch.
Mm-hmm.
That was worth the ticket alone. I have to hammer that point home. The offense was okay. Some players were, Abaji was basically non-existent. Didn't love
he only
watching.
played 12 minutes. In fairness,
Yeah.
But my question to you was play in or tank, based on what you saw.
I'm on the Scottie train. I mean, if Scottie's playing this well, he is the marquee player. I mean, I'll follow him into the gates of hell. I don't care. Like he's again, and he, again, this wasn't even his best game. Like his mid range, he was missing shots on in the paint. He struggled. He made mistakes. Yet, what? He's such a freak of nature. Like he doesn't shrink under pressure. Like he still performs. Like he still wants to win. And I don't know, man. Like we're watching like a top 15, like top 20 player right now. Like it's like you should have seen the energy in the crowd. Like just people chanting his name. People getting a joy just watching him, like dogging ball handlers. It's a great atmosphere because, again, you're used to. Everyone wants to watch a scorer, right? I mean, people want to watch like players who score, like the best of DeJounte Murray. But Scottie just has this aura.
Did you catch what Darko Rajakovic said about him today?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I'm gonna share a clip with you, and you let me know what you think. Here, can you hear it?
Play it.
Yeah.
I think Scottie is constantly improving. He's a player that is very ambitious. He's a winner. He's a competitor. He has amazing drive. He's always finding the ways to improve his game, and also he's really learning what it takes to be a leader of a team and to be a franchise player, and he's doing an outstanding job doing that. This age, he's a true leader, and we go as far as Scottie Barnes goes. The way he sets the tone, the way he plays defense, the way he's sharing the ball, he's raising the level for everybody else.
Is he playing
Yeah.
any differently?
So that was the first thing that Darko said. The second thing that he said was this.
Players, then you have potential. In any league, like NBA has the best players in the world. Best players in the world play in this league. And you have very talented players, then you have potential, guys that are showing potential. And then you have two categories. You have a competitor, guys that show up every single night. But when it comes to winning moment of the game, they're not really there. And then you have winners who are going to do everything in their power to help the team win. And sometimes that's not going to, the outcome is not going to be always the win, but they're willing to do any sacrifice that it's needed. Is that blocking a shot? Is that getting a deflection when you need it? Is that getting a bucket when you need it? Is that to make the right play and just not shoot some shots and allow your teammates to make the play? Scottie is all about that. And he is only 23 years old. And when this guy, in next couple of years, when he continues putting this type of work and intention into work, we're going to be talking about one of the best players in the league.
So I think Darko is going to follow Scottie into the gates of hell with you.
Rob, Scottie's mid-range release, again, these little things that when you see it live, it's very graceful. Like he has, I know you intimated on a previous live I listened to, it was a Kawhi comparison, and I know people will probably scoff at that, but it's accurate. When you're so strong and so big and you're so imposing physically, your center of gravity has to be so on point to generate the minimum power to let the softness of your hands. I mean, like, I know you play basketball. Like, I'm preaching to the choir. He has that soft grace in his release, even under tremendous pressure. So when you know how to put the proper rotation on the ball, all you really need is the minimum sort of center of gravity strength, which he has. Like, he's got so much, his legs are so powerful. Like, I've seen this guy doing lunges on workouts, like weighted lunges. Like, he's so strong. So again, like back in the day, watching in the NBA in the 90s, like someone who's that strong would be chucking bricks. Like, they just don't have that grace, but he has the softness in his hands to make that ball rotate properly in the, like, relative to where the basket is, whether it's 12 feet or 15 feet. So when he figures that out consistently, like, I can literally see it. It's not a mirage. Like, when you're sitting there and you're like, oh, he actually has the proper shot form. It's really just a matter of measuring the power properly, which he's still figuring out with the pressure, right? Like, Kevin Garnett, I think, is like one of the greatest power forwards of all time. And I watched Kevin Garnett live. Like, Kevin Garnett never had that. Like, he had a version of it which was passable. Scottie has it. He has that. So if he can figure it out consistently, I mean, you have a top 10 player. Like, I'm convinced of that. And people are going to say I'm blowing smoke. Like, it's one game that I saw live this year, but just the vantage point from where I was sitting, I'm like, oh my God, like, this is it. We're very close to like this monumental moment in a player's development, you know? Right. And that's how I was feeling. Again, I mean, it's my opinion. I could be wrong, but
yeah.
It's just,
look,
yeah.
I think, you know, watching Scottie live now, I've watched him live about, I want to say 12, 15 times. That's probably not enough for someone who's as big a fan as I am, but every time I watch him, I see something new that I think he could work on, things that he can get better at. Obviously, we've had numerous conversations with the people around him and, you know, how he's getting better and all that stuff. The one thing I will say, though, is, like, when he puts his mind to something, when things get simpler for him, like when it's like, okay, it's scoring time, you know, it's really unstoppable. How the physics of it, right? The other thing I'll say is, today on the panel, we were talking about how uncoordinated most people who are 6'6" in the world are, how remarkably rare it is for anyone who's 6'6". If you've watched anyone who's 6'6", like a normal person, I don't mean like Michael Jordan, normal people who are 6'5" and above are deeply uncoordinated. They're off balance. They're extremely clumsy. They're usually pretty slow. They usually walk with a limp. It's not normal. There's nothing normal about what Scottie is. His legs, he has the same legs as most 7-footers.
Yeah.
Like, hip to hip, you stand him next to Evan Mobley, their hips are at the exact same place. If you stand him next to Shaquille O'Neal, his hips are at the same place. The only difference between Scottie and, you know, most players who are 7 feet is his torso is really short. But he's basically a 7-footer in a 6'9" frame, but everything else about him is 7 feet. His arms are that of a 7-footer. So when we talk about the uniqueness of athletes, like the greatest athletes of all time, they're all remarkably unique in their movement patterns and their physical dimensions and how they jump, how quickly they get off the ground, how they shift directions. Derrick Rose, John Morant, Zion Williamson, these are all freaks. But their freak nature is so obvious to the casual fan because they jump high. Or Scottie's freak nature is really just obvious if you study the sports science of it. I mean, I've talked to people who do this stuff for a living, like who do the measurements, and they say Scottie might be one of the rarest athletes in NBA history. His physical dimensions, from the hand size to the arm span, there's not one player in their entire database that matched Scottie Barnes. Not one. Not Kawhi, not Giannis, nobody. His dimensions are just so weird. And so that is going to create a unique path forward, but it's also going to create unique results. To me, I don't care how many shots he misses, man. What I know is he's never, ever going to get blocked on it. I mean, okay, Paolo blocked him the other day. I mean, on a self-generated pull-up turnaround, he's not getting blocked. I noticed this early with a guy like Rasheed Wallace as well. Rasheed Wallace's arc and his release point was so high that in the playoffs, it was like, how do you stop this without double teaming it? You can't. And when you double team him with Scottie, he just kills you. So you just get to a point where this guy becomes so unstoppable one-on-one, and there isn't a compatible matchup for him anywhere in the league that I know of that exists. Not Herb Jones, not OG, nobody. In his prime, there's not one player that I could think of sticking on him one-on-one and being like, okay, I'm good. No, I'm always going to have to send a second player. And the minute I send a second player, he's going to shred my defense apart, and he's going to have 15 assists. So it's like, it's a real cheat code. And, you know, you said it might seem weird to people comparing him to Kawhi. Well, I'm going to say this. It felt very weird to me for years listening to him being compared to Draymond Green. So, little tomato, I don't know, little comeuppance, I don't know. But it's been great to see him get all the praise and all the love. I don't know if you heard about it, but he got named Eastern Conference Player of the Week. First Raptor to get that award since Pascal Siakam in, I want to say 2021, 2022, 23, something like that.
Rob, like I hope you catch a couple more games live before the season's end. I know it's like it's supposed to be a tanking year, blah blah blah, but there is a payoff. Just the vantage point that I had, like how he's able to defensively keep pace, like the way he kept pace with Zion on a couple of possessions, like it put the fear of God. Like I'm trying to put myself like into a ball handler against a Scottie, and it puts the fear of God in you. You're like it's a nightmare. Like, you're like, what are you supposed to do? And Zion's like begging for a screen or a pick.
But Paolo was begging for a screen too. I mean, we're talking like with Zion and Paolo, we're talking about two of the most incredible forward scorers in the league.
Yeah.
We're talking about guys who can easily get 40, 50 any given night. If you mess up on their defensive coverages, these guys are going off for 50. They're unstoppable. They're first overall picks. We're not talking about he shut down Jalen Johnson and Dyson Daniels. We're talking about like legit franchise level max player, unquestionable type of guys.
For sure.
I think he's better than both of them.
I think he is
legit better than both of them because neither one of those guys defend on his level. So it's like the great separator obviously is going to be the shooting, because if he can shoot, then I think his upside offensively is like a better passing version of Jason Tatum, which is easily like a franchise player. To the people who think he's going to become Giannis, I don't know if he has, like, he's athletic as hell, but it's a different type of athleticism. I don't know if it's like the burst and strength and 7 foot, freight train that Giannis is, but I think he's just going to get more coordinated. I've seen him get a lot lower with his handle and a lot more bursty with his handle. It's still a huge work in progress, though. I think this summer will be the summer that defines his entire career, because he can come out next year and be a top 5 MVP finish or a top 7 MVP finish as the Raptors go off for 57, 50, 45, 43 wins, 47 wins. Or, he could just have another year like this year, at which point I'm going to have to question whether I'm so sure he's going to be a top 10 player, right? Because right now he's firmly, like, to me, a top 20 player in the league. Now, coming into the season, I thought
he's top 20. No, there's no question he's top 20 in my mind, because, like, he's one of the best two-way players in the league. The only again, it was going back to what Mo was saying on the previous live. Like if you have Jokic instincts in the post, which he has, all you're asking for is competent decision making and playmaking in shooting around you, which is not obvious that he has. Like, you know, Poeltl had a good game tonight, mostly because I thought Misi really wasn't that. Misi looked frail. I like Misi, by the way. I think he ended the game with like 0 points, which is,
He did.
you know, but
Rare.
You know,
It's a rare one for him. He was probably a top 3 rookie of the year finish for most of the year. But yeah, I was very high on him coming into the draft, as you know, and I remain very high on him. To
No, I think he can be like still a very good player. Like, but it was the dexterity was questionable. Like, Poeltl had too many easy angles. But again, this was created a lot by Scottie, right? So it worked tonight in that respect. I mean, there were some foibles between Bruce and like this insistence with his floater mixed with like some really poorly timed drives by RJ. But anyway, I'm not gonna, you know.
Yeah, I thought RJ had a really tough process tonight overall. I think, you know, sometimes there was a lot of drives that just didn't end up in anything. And you're right. Like even watching from the comfort of my living room, I could see that there were a lot of passes where he should make that pass. He's not seeing it. Why is he not seeing it? Why is he making up his mind beforehand? But overall, not that one game determines the season, I think RJ's been much better as a playmaker this year. So I've been.
He has, and there were some promising defensive possessions that he performed well in. So, to your original question, and I'll sign on after this because I know everyone wants to go to bed. But you asked me like tank or play in. Again, I mean, I don't want to miss out on some potentially like potential blue chip players. I would prefer if we sold high on Boucher, and I don't say that lightly. I think like I can't understate this, Rob. Like the euphoria in the crowd with this guy right now, like he's captured the hearts of Raptors fans, for better or worse. Like he's going through some insane, call it good fortune or just, you know, like a payoff of hard work.
I think he's a classic underdog, and right now, this is a city that feels very underdog, and
it does.
You know, again, like we the North came at the perfect time, first time. You know, the marketing, the messaging was on point and on brand with how Canada felt about themselves in relation to America and American hoops talk, and to come back like a phoenix from the ashes, right? You were out. You know, you're the second worst team in the league. To come back, to ride that wave of momentum and feel that good about yourself in the playoffs, and you know, it's really hard to undercut it. And one thing I'll say is everything you do informs people about who you are. So if you're Masai Ujiri and right now you let this team win, clearly. You let Kelly come back, you let Bruce come back, you didn't sit them out. If you hadn't let those guys come back, you don't win ever. You would never have done this without Kelly and Bruce. They are the unsung heroes of this as much as Chris Boucher is, because I think Bruce has played an incredible basketball. You take that off the table, and now you allow this team to win 7 of 8 or 6 of 8 or 6 of 9, not 6 of 9, 6 of 9 is not impressive, 7 of 8, 8 of 9, and then pull the plug at the trade deadline. I think you're setting yourself up for maybe some backlash from your locker room. Maybe some people feeling like, okay, well, that's what we're about here. We're just going to pull the plug. Luka was not happy when the Dallas Mavericks sort of sold the season to get Derek Lively. I'm sure he's happy now, but it's just like with all the positive momentum that you've built up with this team, the offseason together, getting the total buy-in from everyone to come down to Vegas Summer League, throwing it away for a few lottery balls right now and not allowing this team to have that ability to determine their own path feels wrong. Now,
Oh, I agree.
creatively though, if you want to like subtly tank with like some weird lineups and just be like, this is the day that Ulrich Chamche is going to be our starting point guard, I'm all for it. All for it. Yeah. Like what I would never accept. I don't think I would never accept it. It's not that serious. It's basketball. What I don't think I would agree with is if the Raptors win every game from here on out, and then still at the deadline, the determination is the same. That would be tough. It would be a tough pill to swallow for, I think, everybody.
No, Rob, if Scottie would sniff out like some sabotage lineup, like the intensity that he's playing with right now is I have to tell you, is palpable.
Absolutely.
It is.
I agree.
It's palpable, and if he is the guy, and I think he is, how do you deny him that competitive vigor? I don't know how you navigate this and just say, oh, actually, we're not going to win the championship this year, so would you mind just mailing it in so we can get a pick? Like, I don't think that's in the cards for him. I was sitting there, Rob, like he's not mailing it in. Like he's playing to win. He's definitely playing to win. Like
I 100% hear that. And he was patient. He didn't bitch and complain when the team was losing early. He didn't have bad body language about it. He didn't come out. You didn't hear any media leaks about Scottie Barnes is unhappy in Toronto. Scottie, none of that. He stayed together. After every loss, the message was the same. We're fine. We're working. We're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. And some teams just need a little bit of time to figure out a new defensive system. I really look, man, I look at this roster and I think to kind of cap this off, because we do have one more caller and I wanted to go to bed at some point too. But I just want to say, I don't think people understand how good this dude is going to be in the playoffs. But I have a feeling he's going to set the whole league on notice once he gets to the playoffs, because this is a dude who really, really does dial up for those big moments. And you tell him that a chance at the second round, even if it means going up against a mammoth team like the Cavaliers or the Celtics, I'll tell you, this is not a guy who's going to shrink in that moment. Like, mark my words, he will show up in those games and they will be epic shit. Now, will his teammates show up? Does he have enough help? I don't know. That I have no idea. I don't know who else is going to show up for that. RJ was pretty good in the playoffs the last time he was there too. So, you have some killers on this team. You have some guys, you have some veterans, you have some competitors. And, maybe this is the type of Cinderella team that MLSC can market, package, sell. And regardless of how you feel about it, like, the Raptors are going to get a good player in this draft. Whether it's 15th, 8th, 7th, 6th, 2nd, I trust them. In all areas of this draft, I trust them. And a 15th overall pick in this draft might just be a future all-star too. We don't know. But I'm sure I'm going to be following him in Summer League. And I'm sure I'm going to be following Jakobi. And to just say like how fickle this shit is, I'm positive that we got Jakobi at 19th. He was mocked as high as 3rd this time last year. January, before his season kind of fell off at Baylor, December, he was mocked as high as top 5. He was consensus top 5 pick. Isaiah Collier, coming into that season, who went 29th, the Raptors, opted to trade that pick for Ochai. That guy was pegged as a top 5 pick too. So it's like, what is this arbitrary number? There's obviously going to be someone who's going to win the top 5 next year, in this draft, who probably in hindsight, a year from now, we're going to say should have been a second rounder. And there's probably someone who's going to be picked 10 to 20 that we're going to say should have gone top 5. So I think for the Raptors, it's like, okay, have your cake and eat it too. Number one, go make the playoffs, go make the play-in, pass the Bulls, pass the Sixers, play it out, see what you get. And worst case scenario, you get bounced in the play-in, you still keep your lottery pick. And it's a high lottery pick. It's like 8th or 9th. That's the cool thing, because all those Western Conference teams that are in the play-in are better than the Raptors. All of them. 10 through 6, 10, 9, 8, 7 are all better than the Raptors. And nothing that the Raptors are going to do from here on out is going to change that. So it's like, when you don't make the playoffs, like if you, like what I was saying in yesterday's live was, you could basically have a free ticket to try, and like, I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is there's a world in which you sell everyone, you bottom out, you try to get to 5th, and then two teams jump you and you go to 7th pick. The Raptors last year had the 6th, and they ended up at the 8th, which means 2 teams jumped them, right? Atlanta jumped them. So what happens this year is you go to the play-in, let's say you win one game and then you get bounced in the second game, you go right back to the draft lottery, you have the 8th odds and you get the 8th pick. What's the difference between 7 and 8? You got the playing experience, you know what I mean? So it's like I don't know. I'm gonna trust Bobby Webster when he said they're not gonna try to game this, that they're not gonna try to scheme it because they know that it's not schemable. And I'm just gonna go with that and just say, shit, Grady, Scottie, super young players. You got 2 Gatorade National Player of the Years on this team, and RJ and Grady. I think it's just time we maybe reimagine how we look at this team. Yeah. All right, man. Thanks a lot for calling in. Appreciate you, and thanks for sharing.
All the best.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on. Cheers.
All
Bye.
right. Cheers, man. Bye. Okay, we got one more caller. I do not have the breath to speak for a long time, so I just want to quickly flash a little trailer for y'all, and then we're gonna get to Mubz. If Mubz is sticking around, we are going to get to Mubz. But I just want to show y'all the documentary that is coming to Pendance. It is about basketball. It is making its Canadian premiere at Pendance. Super excited.
My name is Gabe, and growing up, my first love was basketball. Like many young hoopers, I had dreams of going to the NBA, but when my father handed me a camera...
I gotta start that again, my bad.
My name is Gabe, and growing up, my first...
This dude is crazy, bro, I'm telling you. What is it? It's a documentary about Minnesota basketball.
When most people think of Minnesota, this is what they picture.
Now to Minneapolis, which is among the coldest places in the country right now. The actual temperature could get as low as negative 30 degrees.
But there was one place we could always find warmth.
Is Minnesota the most underrated basketball state in the country?
The Oklahoma City Thunder select Chet Holmgren, Jalen Suggs,
Rachel Banner,
Tyus Jones or Tyus Stones.
Dream big because no one knows what you're capable of but you.
Trey Jones from Duke University.
People have always seen Minnesota as a hockey state, but there's a deep-rooted love of basketball here that flows through every gym.
Edwards, yes, sir! I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years. Bring your ass.
I'm really happy for the fans that have waited 20 years to see this thing happen again. And it's a basketball state, man. No offense to hockey, but this is a basketball state.
All this love for the game has led to a long list of Minnesota-born hoopers that have taken their game to the highest levels.
Kendall Brown.
David Roddy, Zeke Naji,
Nia Coffey,
Rashad Vaughn,
Chris Humphries.
Here's Rose. Elliott to Sims. Gary looks. He takes it.
Basketball saved my life. I mean, for so many kids, that's true.
I had the mindset of like, I'm gonna kill you. I don't care who you are or who they say you are. I know you can't guard me.
I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're LeBron James, Maya Moore, the #1 player in the country. You lace your shoes up just like me.
And you can go back.
Here's Pippen, and he's turned back by McHale.
You see greats like Kevin McHale, Khalid El-Amin,
Jim Peterson,
Lindsey Whalen.
From last year.
Paige Becker's got a chance to be the best ever, and everybody sees it.
Patient offensive set.
I mean, the kids are getting hungrier, and the more examples that are set, the hungrier I see the kids get. You just gotta come in fearless and think you're the best. If you think you're the best, you're gonna be the best.
Thankfully, you're telling this story. I mean, Minnesota
is a basketball state.
Minnesota is a basketball state.
Minnesota is a basketball state.
Minnesota is a basketball state.
This is what movies is made of.
This is what movies
This is what movies is made of.
Okay, so that is coming to Pendance. I'm very excited. It has taken a very, very long time to get a basketball documentary to the Pendance Film Festival, but it's happened, and I'm very excited about it. Hope y'all will come. It is going to be co-screening with an amazing hockey documentary. So it's going to be a basketball documentary and a hockey documentary together, merging two sports. Who's saying that looks sick? I'm gonna make sure that we save at least 5 to 10 tickets for subscribers of this channel. I'm gonna make sure y'all, get to experience that. Gabe is gonna be here. He's coming from LA, and that's where he's been making basketball documentaries. This is a rising, star in the world of sports documentaries. So it's gonna be very, very fun. Can't wait. All right, Mubz, final caller. What's up, man?
Yeah, what's up? First of all, that documentary seems very cool. Like that trailer was amazing. Yeah, and I apologize for coming on so late.
It's all good.
Yeah. So, I seen like your last bit of what you were saying to the last caller about whether we should tank or, make a playoff push. And I was honestly team tank, but then now I'm more 50-50 after what you said. Cause like, you're right. Like, how would Scottie take it or RJ take it? Or these guys are playing so hard, and now we go and trade Chris Boucher, trade Kelly Olynyk. You know what I mean? Like these guys been playing really hard basketball, really good basketball. Like it'd be honestly a disservice to sell to them. You know what I mean? The players who are playing really hard. And like, what if we could have got the 4th pick or the 3rd pick, and now we get the 9th pick or the 10th pick? I feel like this draft class is so stacked that it doesn't really matter. Like I still think, and especially with our development, I think a 9th or a 10th pick in this draft could be a star,
For sure. I mean, look, like talent is talent, man. Like you look at a guy like Scottie Barnes, but then you also look in the same draft, and people always talk about like, what if we'd stuck at 7? And I'm like, I shudder to think, would we have taken Franz, or would we have messed up and taken Kuminga?
Right.
But it's like maybe we would have taken Franz, and it wouldn't have been so bad because Franz is pretty much a star as well, right? So it's like you find stars everywhere. I compared 4 teams the other day. One was compiled of only top 3rd overall picks. One was 8th overall picks. One was 11 to 12 overall picks. And then one was players picked between 15 and 20. And I asked everyone, what's the best team? And I just put 5. And people said the 11 to 12 because it had Shea and Jalen Williams. So it's like, if one thing I've seen with OKC is they really developed their 10th to 12th picks. Case and Wallace, right? Case and Wallace was, I think, the 12th pick or the 10th pick. I always forget which one he went.
I think he was 12.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, like Case went right before the Raptors, and then Derek Lively, I guess, was 10th in that situation. I mean, those are really good players. So if you know how to develop players, if you know how to identify players, the Raptors are obviously going to go through a very rigorous, pre-draft process where they're gonna. And they have an identity now. See, it's like much easier to fit somebody into an identity because, like attracts like, and everyone can just kind of come in. And, I'm a big believer that you get the right player for you. When you're doing the right stuff, you'll attract the right stuff, So agents around the league, they're looking at their clients. They're seeing Ochai Agbaji develop. They're seeing Grady develop. And they're just like, if I have to pick between the Raptors and the Bulls right now, which of these two teams, in the lottery between, this range that my client's in, which of these am I going to nudge my client and be like, you really want to go there? They take care of their players. They have a great coaching staff. They have an unselfish star. You're going to look good. The 905 is very, very well equipped to develop you. And they're actually going to pay you once they develop you. They're not just going to throw you away. I just think the Raptors have had so much success drafting later in the draft.
Right.
And they always find positive value. So, like, I mean, I think earlier in the year when Grady was cooking, I asked people, like, would you have taken him top 5 in that draft based on how he's playing right now? Most people said, yeah. So it's like, okay, you got a top 5 in 13. I think I'm more inclined to say I would have taken him top 8. But even 8 at 13 is positive value. So if you find 5 at 10, it's positive value. Yeah. I just think there's just something optically wrong about punishing winning.
Yeah, and not just that, it's like I think winning this season is good because when we go into next season, like now we've won, so now we won't like, you know what I mean? I don't know what I'm trying to say, but like next season we won't go through that phase where it's like we're still trying to kind of building. Like we've built this season. Now next season I feel like we're gonna be a team that's like a top 5 seed in the Eastern Conference. You know what I'm trying to say?
I mean, yeah, and I mean, look at how hard this team fought this offseason, right? It's very uncommon. I think RJ Barrett pretty much alluded to the fact that this is the most he's ever hung around a team during the offseason. This is very rare for him. And he also had, very busy summer with Team Canada. So I think, you take a look at the young players on this team. You'll take a look at a guy like Jakobi, Ulrich, J-Mo, Scottie, Grady, and you're just like, why don't you just try to develop these guys?
Right.
Like, why don't you just try to make them better? Like, what solution do you think that Kasparas Yakuchonis is gonna? What do you think Kasparas Yakuchonis is actually gonna be for you that you think that's worth throwing away a whole season to get him? And it's like, how do you know 100% that Nolan Traore is not going to end up being the better player in your system? You just don't know that. So I think the Raptors, before they make this decision, they're going to have to be pretty conclusive that there's a player, or at least a group of players, that they're comfortable with from
that's
eight to 20.
Okay.
Right? Somewhere, not 8 to 20, 8 to 15. The Raptors are not going to pick 20th. They're gonna pick 15th. And so somewhere between 8 and 15, do you believe that there's 2-3 guys that you really like in that range where you believe that you're comfortable that, okay, let's just say we do make the playoffs and we do get the 15th pick, that our guy will still be there, or at least one of the guys that we really like is going to be there? Or do you more see this as like a draft that's like top 9 and then there's just this massive fall off and you're going to end up with like some baseline role player at 15, at which point maybe you have to rethink this a little bit? I do think the tanking is important. I do think that, picking high is important. I would ideally, if I could pick, here's what I would love to happen. I would love for the Raptors to make the play-in, win the first game, lose the second game really close, like at the buzzer, and feel really good about themselves, and then go into the draft lottery and then win the lottery. That would be the best thing
That'd
ever.
be perfect, yeah.
Right?
Wait, so if the Raptors make the playoffs, right? Let's say they win both games, and they're in the first. Does that affect their draft lottery or their draft odds, or no? Or is it only regular? Okay.
So the draft pick is as such. The draft pick locks in when the playoffs start. So when the play-in ends, the draft pick locks in. So let's just say the Raptors are the 10th team in the East. So they jump Chicago, they jump Philly and Chicago, and they end up with the 10th. So now they have to face the 9th team on the road. So no revenue for MLSE. And then they have to go and they have to face the loser of 7 and 8 on the road. Once again, no revenue for MLSE. So unless you're 7th, you're not getting revenue. Or unless you're 7th or 8th, you're not getting revenue in this situation. Actually, wait. No, basically, if you're 10th, you're not getting revenue. If you're the home team in that situation, you're not getting revenue. Raptors will not enjoy a single gate of the play-in if they're 10th. However, let's say you win that first game, then you face the loser of 7 and 8, which was probably Miami or Orlando or one of those teams. Who knows? Or Atlanta. And let's say you lose that game. Now you fall back as if you never made the play-in at all.
Okay.
So now you go right back into your draft lottery as if you're not in the playoffs, which you're not. And at that point, you're at an advantage because the Western Conference teams that make the play-in, that don't make the playoffs, are actually much worse than you. And presumably, because you were 10th, maybe there was a team in the East that was ahead of you as well that they didn't make it. So now when you resettle the draft lottery odds, you're at worst 9th. So you won't be 14th, 13th, 12th, 11th, because those teams will all be Western Conference teams. Get my point?
Yeah, I see what you mean. And I want to bring up real quick, people, on Twitter or whatever, even Raptors fans, I see like Scottie's not a 1A, Scottie's not this. Like, I don't think people realize that. I don't think there's many NBA players that can do what Scottie does. Guard 1 through 5, facilitate like he does. Like, there's not many players. Like, the breed of Scottie is just extremely rare, if you get what I'm trying to say. And it's like crazy how I see Raptors fan are like the main haters of Scottie Barnes. That's personally just crazy to me. Like, how are we gonna hate our own guy?
I don't think that anybody. I'm trying to phrase my words right. I don't think the people who hate on him necessarily hate him. I think they hate things about him. I think they hate how he's talked about. I think they hate the fact that he's an all-star. I think the fact that they hate the fact that they don't understand why he's good, because it's not obvious why he's good. You know, when Gary Trent was going off for 30 points per game and you tried to tell somebody this guy could be an all-star, no one bat an eye. But I'm like, what are we talking about here? All-star? You fucking crazy? But with Gary, it was obvious. He's scoring 30 points per game across the last 8 games. So boom, all-star. He's hitting a lot of threes. He's hitting step backs.
Oh, okay.
With Scottie, it's a little less obvious because the things that Scottie excels at are things that people who play basketball at a low level never even think to excel at. Like
Right.
nobody, like me, I don't know if you play basketball. Most
played
people
high
in
school.
you played high school.
Yeah.
Did you play like Scottie Barnes?
Nah, not Scottie Barnes. No.
Me neither. No, none of us did. None of us did. None of us had that vision. None of us were 6'8", 6'9". None of us could switch 1 through 5. I mean, Lord help me if I ended up on a big, I'm dead. You know,
Right.
I'm 5'11". The bigs that we were playing against were like 6'6", 6'7". I was like screaming, "Help! Help! Help!" You know, because no one could even see me behind that dude. Like when none of us have an idea. You know, Brian doesn't have an idea. Brian was, you know, his trainer. He played in Boston. He played Division I in Boston, and you know, he was a 5'9" point guard. None of us understand what it is to be a 6'9" playmaker. It's just the rarest type of player. Luka and Jokic are the only players in the world that can really understand like what Scottie is.
I
And
say
neither-
LeBron too.
LeBron as well. Sorry, I
Yeah.
apologize. Harden, like guys like this
Yeah.
jumbo playmaker archetype. And the thing is that apart from LeBron, none of those guys really play defense either. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, when Jakob is describing, like, it's crazy to think sometimes it's very impressive when you sit back and you realize he anchors both our offense and our defense. Like, he's the one guy who can draw sustainably a double team. He's the one guy who can consistently pass out of that double team. He's the one guy who can get a shot in the half court. Gregory saying Durant. Yeah, I think Durant could understand it as well. I just don't think Durant
I don't think Durant's the hit playmaker of Scottie, in my opinion.
He's not. He's
Yeah.
not, and he never has been, and I don't think he'll ever be.
He's
at
done
this
it better.
point.
Don't get me wrong, but
For
not
sure,
to where it's
like
not like how
absolutely. But the idea of shouldering the load, as you know, I said this. Scottie is the only player that I can say this about in the entire NBA, apart from Jokic. He is his team's best point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center.
Yeah.
He is by far his team's best at every one of those positions, which means that if you start 4 players and your 5th starter has to be a center, then it should be Scottie Barnes. And if your 5th starter has to be a point guard, then it should be Scottie Barnes. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's where we're at right now, is like, he's better than all of his teammates by significant leaps. And that is something that is usually the case for great players on great teams. It's not usually the case for bad players on bad teams. Like, you know, when you look at Cade a couple of years ago, Cade was significantly better than most of his teammates, but he was on a really, really bad team, so no one cared, right? Well, right now, Scottie's significantly better than most of his teammates, but all of his teammates, but nobody cares because they're on a bad team. Wait till you see like how much I think people wake up when the Raptors start winning, if the Raptors continue their winning ways, because I think the objective and the narrative completely flips on its head, because people really do value winning. But did people value that we were in those games? Did people value that we were up 6 against the Denver Nuggets early on? No, because we lost those games. So that's all people like. People and so, you know, and I think the other thing that people really dislike about Scottie is, you know, that they feel, whether correctly or incorrectly, that the Raptors chose him over players that they liked more than him. Pascal, Fred, guys like that, Kevin Durant. You know, again, when you look at like, it's almost like, you know, it's like a girl, right? It's like if you find out your boy, you know, I don't know, like he dropped his plans with you, and you know, he kind of like left all his friends and he stopped talking to a whole bunch of people, and then you meet the girl, you're like, that's what you gave up that for? That's
what you mean. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're expecting her to be a knockout 10. You're expecting her to be like the greatest thing ever. But she just ends up being super average. You'd be like, you gave up everything for super average? What are we doing here? So it's like when you tell your fan base, either through the media or through the Tom-Toms, that we're not going to trade this guy for Kevin Durant, and KD was 32, 33 at the time, you say, we're not trading. He's off the table for Kevin Durant. People bake in a lot of expectations that dude is going to come out and average 30 points per game, like Kevin Durant. And he's not Kevin Durant. So it's like people get upset about that. I think that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at in terms of trying to understand the psychology of a Scottie hater. But anyways, it doesn't matter. He's not bothered by it. No one's bothered by it. At the end of the day, he's going to be a multi-time All-Star in Toronto. He's going to lead to a lot of winning in Toronto.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, man, thanks a lot for calling in. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, one more final thought. Another thing about Scottie is even when Scottie's having a bad shooting night like he did today, he could still be the most impactful player on the team. Like, I think, and that's really rare in the NBA in general, like all time, like in history. And I think that's what is the number one thing that's about Scottie Barnes that I like. You know what I mean? Because he shot like 6 for 21 today. And in my opinion, he's still the most impactful player because he does everything else. Kind of similar to Larry as well. I guess Larry does that too. Larry could have a bad shooting night, and he could still be the most impactful player.
Exactly. And the only thing, the biggest difference here is, like, and no shade to Kyle Lowry. Love Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
Still one of my favorites.
Greatest Raptor of all time.
Yeah. But the thing with Lowry was when he wanted to get a shot, he couldn't just generate it out of nowhere because he had vertical limitations, physical limitations as a 6-foot guard, right?
Right.
But if you could, like, I often actually used to say, you know, if Fred VanVleet was 6'7", Fred VanVleet would be all NBA. You know, I used to say that. Like, I'm like, man, the skill that this dude has, the shot, the craft, the strength, man, the difference that 6 inches makes, right?
Yeah.
And the thing with Kyle Lowry, I used to say was, if Kyle Lowry was 6'7", he'd be MVP. And that's how I felt about Kyle Lowry. So it's like, that's what you have in Scottie. You have the 6'8", 6'9" Kyle Lowry. You know?
Like,
he's a very similar playmaker. He's got the vision for the game. He's got that peskiness, the dog. He's you know. And Kyle Lowry, he polarized a lot of fans. You know, like, people like to wash it over now because he won a championship here. But man, when he missed that shot against the Brooklyn Nets, people were just like, you can't win with this guy. To this day, people tell me that they didn't think that Kyle Lowry would ever win a championship because he was such a playoff.
I remember
all that stuff.
Even when we couldn't get past LeBron, like him and DeRozan, I remember so many conversations about Larry. He's a playoff choker. He's this, he's that. And I guess that's all. And now he's looked as the greatest Raptor and whatnot. But at a certain point, he had a lot of haters and a lot of people that doubted him.
Agreed. Yeah. Anyways, man, thanks a lot for calling in. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day, bro.
Cheers.
Bye.
Okay. I want to give a quick shout out to all the super chats. You guys very, very generously support this show, and I just want to show y'all some love as you have shown me some love here. Gregory starting it off early in the night. Pensare represent. Thank you very much. Cast 2929. I meant to send this on 12K night, but I fell asleep. Congrats on the milestone. Thank you very much. Johnny A. 400 strong tuning in. Smash that like button, y'all. To those of you who've fallen asleep watching this, of the 301 of you, I'm going to assume that at least 40 of you are asleep. To the ones that are awake, to the ones that are still awake right now at 1:20 a.m. on a Monday night, please do like this video on your way out. Steve, you know, how Darko is making sure the players are absolutely not arrogant. Make sure confident. That's how to show a winning team works. By the way, Rob, hopefully Pendance Film Festival is successful. Thank you very, very much. And thank you for your wishes there. We got 31 days to grind out, you know, the Pendance Film Festival. Can't wait. Super excited. Sparkling super sticker. Thank you very much. Donation jar contribution from Gregory. Thank you very much. Bueno Kitty for a dollar store wrench to fix the tank. I will let you know how that goes. Medved, we should tear it down. February 6th trade deadline. Quickly has hardly played any games. He's going to be rusty. We won't go far in the playoffs without him in peak form. A top 5 pick would be great. Well, I'll flip it on the head and I'll ask you the question. Don't you think that maybe, just maybe, if Emmanuel quickly does come back into form, that he could be exactly what's missing from this team right now, which is, you know, shooting. W live correction. Thank you very much on the vestibule/vestige. I have made that mistake at least 20 times in my life. No one has corrected me on it. So I kept making it. Thank you very much. I don't know why I said last vestibule. I literally Googled vestibule because I didn't actually know what it was. I've always last vestige. I don't know why I said vestibule. It's so silly. But is this one of those times where I just have to say English is my second language? I'm sorry. And not speak English? No. But thank you very much for the correction. Speaking of unpopular opinions, I'm not sold on IQ's fit on this team. I started this from She-Wolf just because I wanted to respond to it. I am confident in Emmanuel Quickley's fit on this team. I do think that if he really wants to dial in defensively, he's a very proud individual. He would certainly not be unaware of the fact that the team has won so much without him. And I think that this can be a real gut check moment for him to sort of sit back, just like Scottie did last year, and just sort of observe how the team is playing, what the team needs of him when he comes back, and just slot in and be more of a guy than the guy, you know? And again, Emmanuel Quickley is not a selfish player at all. There's not a selfish bone in his body. He is a very team first person, but this team has high expectations of him to fill a role that is, you know, frankly, right now a little above his head. And they trust that, you know, the faith that they've shown him in the contract and everything that they signed for, that he is someone who's going to grow into that role. And I believe that that work is going to continue not only this year, but also next year, this offseason, etc. And I'm sure at some point, Emmanuel Quickley will be back in the good graces of the Toronto Raptors fandom. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all for tuning in. 3 hours and 10 minutes of this live. And I thought this wasn't going to go long. And people are going to laugh at this live tomorrow morning when they say, see, Rob, every single time you say it's not going to go long, it goes long. Well, we had more callers today than we've had in weeks. I think people are maybe turning around. I always want Pensare Basketball to be a positive place for the players. I want it to be a positive source of, you know, information for the fans. I definitely want it to be a place where dissenting ideas and different ideas can be discussed without ridicule and without, you know, and again, this is a work in progress. I'm certainly not, you know, I'm not the free speech person, you know, necessarily. Like, I've shut down a lot of dissenting opinions myself, so I'm aware of the hypocrisy, but trying to be better about that. And I just hope that, you know, the people who follow Pensare Basketball can be on the right side of history for the most part, you know, like whether it be the takes about Scottie, his work ethic, understanding who Jakobi is, understanding who Ulrich is. I just want to know that if you, like, I'll tell you right now, like my stated goal, you know, it's at 1:24 a.m. Maybe it's a little late to be, you know, deeply philosophical right now. But I just want to say that I want to know that if somebody follows Pensare Basketball, that they're right more than their friends. Is that a petty goal? I don't know. But I just want to know, like, you know, for instance, like early on, I started talking about Jakobi's playmaking chops or Ulrich's growth potential or Jonathan Mobo's defense. Like, I point out these things so that you can point them out, so that you can see them. And then when you start talking about them, you know, hopefully you get that credit too, you know, in your friend circle, because maybe your friends are talking about Ulrich being, you know, 10 years away from being 10 years away. And you're just like, no. I saw this, you know, interview on Pensare Basketball with his trainer, and, you know, I think he's going to be a lot closer. And people are like, all right, whatever, bro. And then, you know, we see what he's doing in the G League, and people are like, oh, damn, Greg knows what's up. Jen knows what's up. So that's what I want. I want this to be that. But I also want this to be a place that continues to be a positive place for players. You know, I know a lot of players check us out. I know that 100%. I've known that for 3 years. I see our stories. I see, you know, who checks them out. I see, you know, I've had conversations about this. So I always, you know, hate the fact that I've had 3 to 4 players in throughout, you know, the last 4 years that just didn't like Pensare Basketball, viewed Pensare Basketball the way the media views Pensare Basketball. And, you know, that's Davion, Chris Boucher, Fred VanVleet, guys like that, Pascal Siakam, where, you know, that anything they thought about Pensare Basketball was basically, this is trash TV. This is Jerry Springer. This is sensationalist, you know, clickbait bullshit. I hate that, you know, I don't necessarily hate that anyone thinks that, and people are free to think what they want on Reddit and Real GM and all whatever. They think I don't know basketball. They could think, you know, that I'm an idiot, that I'm toxic, that I'm whatever. I know who I am. I know what I'm about. I know what I stand for. But it sucks when the players think that too. That really sucks. So I'm really happy that Davion Mitchell and RJ Barrett and Chris Boucher, guys who have caught a lot of criticism from me, are turning it around and participating in a really meaningful way in the winning. I think that's my happiest point. To the point of who deserves the chain tonight, I don't know who won the chain tonight, but watching the game, who felt like they really just turned the game around, man? Can I be honest? It's probably Bruce Brown. Like Bruce Brown to me turned this game around, but maybe that's just me. I mean, Scottie, Bruce, Yak, Chris. That's probably the guys that really to me was like, wow. Yeah. M. Jones saying basically be passionate about ball, be passionate about the sports you claim to be a fan of. I give up. Okay. Shiwo says if IQ stays, I wholeheartedly agree. He needs to move to shooting guard and Scottie stays at point guard. Yeah, Larry Brown had this old quote that you are who you defend. I don't want Scottie guarding point guards. It's a really difficult thing for him. And Davion is doing such a great job that I think Emmanuel quickly will have to continue playing point. But I think IQ's biggest strength will be playing off of Scottie, not Scottie playing off of IQ. You're taking both players and putting them into a worse position. Forcing Scottie to be a shooter for Emmanuel quickly as a decision maker is crazy. Scottie's a much better decision maker. He's a much better playmaker. And I think that Emmanuel quickly will benefit tremendously. I don't think the Raptors are unaware of this. I think they're very aware of this. I think for them, they're trying to develop Emmanuel quickly into a complete player. And being a complete player doesn't mean becoming overly reliant on another player to create your offense for you. I think that's the one thing that I will say is that the Raptors are treating Emmanuel Quickly and Jacoby Walter and Grady Dick and Jamison Battle as independent projects. These are all independent projects. They are not trying to build the perfect team for Scottie, because that's a very different process of basketball. They're not trying to build a perfect team for the Raptors or the Toronto Raptors. They're trying to build 15 to 18 complete basketball players. Good, well-rounded, complete basketball players who can function in different scenarios and different lineups in different team contexts. Because for a team that values flexibility as much as the Raptors do, why wouldn't they also value well-roundedness? Just makes sense, right? Talk to y'all later. Have a great one. I'll apologize in advance. Timestamps are not going to be up right away. It's going to take a while to sift through 3 hours and 16 minutes of a live to get the timestamps, but they will be done at some point. Cheers. Have a great one. And big thank you to everybody for all these super chats, e-transfers, everything. Appreciate y'all and can't wait for Pendance. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.